I didn't originally plan to rewatch The Shining before watching Dr. Sleep, because I was like, I fully remember this. This is like a classic Kubrick. I've seen a few of his, not all of his, all of them. I love it. I love the slow build, the silence, the shots of people being like all those things. But I was like, I should watch it, because this is a sequel. It's a sequel to books and stuff. I don't care about any of that.
Yeah.
I don't read Stephen King books. They're all atrocious.
Yeah.
I have no interest.
Same.
And so one thing I noticed this time was I remember thinking The Shining, because I said, wait, I'll start. I was in the cinema recently, years ago, when we were allowed to go to see movies. And I was in the cinema with my mates, and trailers came on, and there's trailers, and I'm like, oh my gosh, the Star Wars trailer back when I was excited. And, you know, the emotion, I was like, oh, I'm so excited. And then Doctor Strange trailer came on, and I was like,
Dr. Sleep?
My God. Yeah, sorry, what did I say?
Doctor Strange.
Oh, yeah, it's Dr. Sleep trailer came on, and I was like, oh, Ewan McGregor. Oh, what's this? Oh, no. They're like member bearers, The Shining.
Yeah.
But Ewan McGregor, so maybe you'll say it. But then there's like a lady with a hat, and she's doing magic. And I'm like, what the fuck? The Shining is such a classic, brutal, amazing horror film. Like, what is this lunacy and gibberish?
Yeah.
Boo. Looks like a Stephen King book. I have no interest. And I remember looking at my friend, and he's like, movie? And I'm like, oh, no. Why, do you hate me? Fuck no. Fuck this movie. So I rewatched The Shining. And my biggest takeaway the whole time I was watching was, why is this a classic movie? Why does anyone like this? I know why I like this. Why does anybody like this movie? I'm going to sum up the plot of The Shining. I wish I hadn't talked about it, because I kind of was thinking you'd be like, it's the greatest movie ever. But I think you're going to side with me. The Shining is about a family that goes to stay at a spooky mansion. And the kid has undescribed, just weird magic powers. He's a little magic boy.
Telepathy.
He's got weird telepathy kind of stuff. And then the dad, I mean, there's kind of bits where, like, there's a bit where he's drinking, he's like, I only hit him the one. He's like, the only scene that I'm like, I see what this movie's about is when he's trying to justify the time he broke the sun.
Yep.
And then when that actually comes back in Dr. Sleep, I'm like, oh, Dr. Sleep's doing all things but good. Is this a Blade Runner 2049 situation? Spoilers, it is!
I wrote that in my notes.
Really? That only just came to me then.
Dr. Sleep is like the Force Awakens / Blade Runner 2049 of The Shining.
It's pretty damn good for what it is.
Yeah.
But
it's not as good as Blade Runner 2049.
Oh, no.
But I think it's better than Force Awakens now.
Oh, yeah. In terms of a rebooty, remake, sequel kind of spiritual thing.
It's doing its own thing way more than Force Awakens did.
Yeah,
to the original
I loved this because Dr. Sleep. Because when I saw that trailer, I was like, ugh. But I was not remembering what The Shining really is. Because I remember The Shining as like slow build. The bit where he's like manically walking down the thing. The scene where you just see a shot of him and he's just like... And there's like Tuesday and you're like, oh my God, he's going insane.
Yeah.
But what the movie actually is a very, very well shot and well acted movie that is the most cliche movie ever. It is the most cliche horror film in the world. It's a family goes to a place.
It's a haunted house.
The little boy has magic powers, and then the dad, for no reason, is tricked by the ghosts. There is a scene in this movie in which he's trapped in a freezer. I was like, in a cupboard? I don't feel like it's not in a cupboard.
No. It's a supply room, not the freezer.
Oh, okay, but he's stuck in a room.
I always think he gets trapped in the freezer because they set the freezer up earlier in the movie.
And the freezer, it looks like a freezer door. When she's like trying to get it, and then you see the little thing, and you're like, oh my God!
It's like uncut gems all over.
Yeah, the door. When he's in there, he's mocked and taunted by the ghosts, who are all... I remember the scene where he talks to the bartender. I remember the scene where he talks to the guy who was the killer before, and he's like, I was always here. And then in the end, he's always there. I'm like, this doesn't make any sense. What?
Apart from the ghost letting him out of that, and the ghost strangling the kid, do the ghosts do anything else in the movie? Do they actually have any physical manifestation on it? Yeah, they do.
The only reason he goes mad is because a bunch of the ghosts just go up to him and are like, how's it going? And he's like, that's all right. And they're like, you should maybe kill your family. He's like, no. And they're like, but maybe you should. He's like, okay, I'll do that.
And then he's like, wait, aren't you that guy that killed his family?
And then he's like, I've always been here. The house doesn't want you. Kill them, don't you? And it's just stuff like this. And he's kind of like, oh. But the most ridiculous thing I found was just that there's a scene where he's locked in the freezer and she's gonna escape. And then the ghost like knock on the freezer door, not freezer, you know what I mean? And they're like, hey dude, your wife's wearing the pants in this relationship. And he's like, you take that back, you son of a bitch! I'll kill them! And they're like, yeah, you better man up and kill him. And he's like, yeah, I will! And he gets like taunted into killing them. That's really how it felt. There is the scene where he has the bartender scene, and the bartender's like, have a drink, and he's all like...
The devil? Is that the devil? It's probably the devil.
God, I hate that.
Isn't it like
I
a
thought
red
it was just meant to be...
I don't know. He literally sits at the bar and he says, I'd sell my soul for a drink, and then he looks up and all the alcohol's there and a guy in a red suit. And I'm like... This is like...
So that's the only scene that I was truly like... It brought me back, because halfway through the movie, I'm like... I didn't like it. I was like, I did not like it. But there's bits where it's just like the music going, and then it's just like, ding, and I'm like, it's just like Tuesday, and I like feel like maybe I've seen a South Park episode or something where it's like, ding, and it's Tuesday, and it's like, oh, that's funny, it's a joke. But the movie's so like, I don't know, man. He doesn't like yeah, he's meant to be like he's an alcoholic, and that in the sequel, Dr. Sleep, they kind of explain it's like this place feeds his negative energy and it fed off yours, and you kind of awoke it because you're so uber magical, which I kind of love, because Dr. Sleep at least goes, hey, this is fucking lunacy, and we're gonna have magic people sucking like vampire magic out of people, and she's gonna have a magic hat and just whatever.
They
just went for
that is the really confusing part about The Shining for me, I guess, on this rewatch, was these ghosts are able to interact with the real world.
Yeah.
Why don't they just kill the family?
They want to, because
they want to absorb him into the hotel?
I don't think that. I mean, no, I don't want to be like, no, you're wrong. But it's like, I don't necessarily like that, but because like the ghosts want him to do it. Mm-hmm. Like they want to kind of like.
It's just such a roundabout way of getting him to do it. But like, I guess this is what I've read wrong. So the kid is experiencing it all because he has this power and he has this connection.
So he's able to see.
So he's like going past room 237 and he's like, there's some fucked up shit in there, and he remembers.
He's like the dog, you know, when the dog's barking at the ghost, but I don't get to see the ghost.
I really love the little bit of rapport that gets built up between the
cook.
Yeah, and the kid.
A great actor.
Yeah, I really that is kind of one of the
scenes I remember where he rocks up and he's like talking about ice cream, and he's like, would you like some ice cream, Danny? Yeah. And you're like, ah! And then the kid's like, ah! Take away the shots of the kid being like, from this movie, and I reckon The Shining sucks. Because there's only 3 moments where it really, really works for me, and one of them was it's just slowly planning in on the cook. Like the guy when he's sitting on his bed, and it just gets to like this close, and the whole time he's just like, oh, and it's just, he can get those shots. Every time they tried to do that in Dr. Sleep, I was like, I like that you tried. But you didn't get actors that could do it or something. So that for me, Kubrick took the worst, most generic trash story and was like, I'm going to make this look the most beautiful it can, the most grand and empty, but, you know, big.
I gotta say, so there's a couple of big things I wanted to talk about with this movie.
The Shining?
The Shining specifically.
Yeah.
So there are 2 deleted scenes.
Oh, okay.
Which really go...
Are they in the movie I would have seen?
No, definitely
deleted. Yeah.
So this and this ties into the larger surrounding mythos with Stanley Kubrick's movies, which I think really actually does explain everything you need to know about him as a director. So first, I'll just start with these 2 deleted scenes. The first one, there's a deleted scene earlier on in the movie where Jack Nicholson... So basically... The way we're talking about this being the cliche horror film, there is one element of the cliche horror film that is missing, which is kind of the inciting thing that gets Jack in. And generally this is like a magical artifact, or you find the thing.
Or you see the first scene where the axe gets killed. You mean like the first... What do you mean?
So it's like finding a artifact, the hotel artifact that begins his journey. And what it is a photo book that he uses... to try, so he's got writer's block. He finds this album this photo album, which is still in the movie. They just cut the scene. But if you look at his desk, it's on the desk, the photo album in question.
And so it's of the Overlook Hotel.
And he goes through it and he starts using it for his writing. And this is the first time it gets into his head. And he starts, and it's very kind of like Evil Dead finding the initial thing. Okay. They're doing it in like Cabin of the Woods where there's a bunch of stuff you can find. And like each thing will kind of lead you down a similar path. But that is one thing.
So you just cut that?
He cut it. I can't remember what the reasoning was. And then there's a deleted scene.
Feels weird. I like that he's just applied for the job. And they're like, oh, did you know someone got murdered? He's like, that won't happen to me. And I'm like, but it will, because this is a movie. Yeah,
there's a deleted scene also at the end of the film where the, what's his name? Someone Ullman, the guy who interviews Jack at the beginning of the movie, he catches up with... the wife and son after it's all gone down. So it doesn't end the way it did. There's another scene at the end.
With them. It feels like they should have one more scene. And like in the car.
Yeah, because they just...
They disappear. I kind of love it though. They disappear in the smoke phase. Yeah. It's kind of like we're left with Jack and then that's it. But...
Yeah. So there's a scene and there's a little bit of reconciliation. The cops are there. They're all talking. And then right at the end, the hotel owner hands the kid the ball that rolled into frame earlier in the movie. And apparently, so this cut of the film actually did screen initially, early on. Like, what? And then the studio said, audiences are coming out going, oh, they don't understand this, you need to cut this scene. And he did cut it. He agreed with the studio and he cut the scene. Now,
but he still ends on a stupid... Because I was going to say, you're like, he cut 2 horror tropes. And I was like, but what could they be? Because the movie ends with the most horror tropey thing where... I mean, I love all horror films where they go, ooh, at the end. My favorite is always the piranhas. They're like, these piranhas are all baby piranhas. And then one guy's like, what? How big was that? And then a giant piranha eats, and it's just like, this does this. The goose goes, he was always in the hotel. Does it have to make sense? No, it's a horror film. And for me, I was like, I thought this was meant to be serious. But the only reason I think it works and people like it is because it is 100% serious.
Yep.
There's not a single moment of levity at all in the whole film. If there is, I would say it's unintentional. But I feel like that's the only reason the movie's good. Because it's so...
The movie...
I don't know, man. I don't know why. I actually still liked it.
But... I know why the movie has been idolized and glorified and become this larger than life kind of thing.
One of the classic horror films. But above other horror.
Do you know why?
Because the director.
It's because Kubrick never talked about what his movies mean.
Right.
There's never ever been an interview where he sat down and
said,
this is what the ending This is what the ending of 2001 was. This is what the ending of Shining is. This is why all of his movies are glorified and deified to this magnificent level, because he makes ambiguous movies. He thinks a lot about it. Sometimes they just don't make sense though, which I think is the case with The Shining.
Yeah, I don't
Sometimes
think,
they
I don't
do
think
make
it's
sense.
Ambiguous.
So I think Stanley Kubrick's films are kind of glorified, deified because he never explains what the meaning of any film is, and so many directors come out a couple of years after, or TV show creators and things like that. They'll come out a few years later after their movies have been digested, and they'll definitively be like, no, the ending of The Sopranos is this, or this means this, or X means Y. And it kind of does, like, ever since the guy who made The Sopranos came out and said what the ending was, I've been like far less inclined to go back and rewatch it all. So I feel like I'm not going to be able to digest it the same way. And I kind of love Kubrick's films, but the problem is, as a producer of The Shining came out and was like, oh no, Kubrick didn't have any fucking idea what he was doing the entire time. And actually many people in making the movie with him were like, hey, can you explain this? And he was like, no, it's just a dumb ghost movie. And
it is a dumb, funny ghost movie.
And because it's a dumb ghost movie made with such perfection and precision.
The movie looks so stunning. It's so beautiful.
So people have added more weight to so much of what doesn't make sense.
About how many insane people
I can't stand that.
Oh, really?
It's such... I mean, there are a couple of good points, but it's mostly trash.
But it's a... I've not... I mean, let's start talking about something I haven't seen. I've not seen that. But I was under the impression it's more about the idea of obsession and what people take from things.
Sure.
But that could be someone who just liked it, who was like, no, you're wrong, and thinking it's dumb. And just because I remember someone talking to me about it, I was like, oh, that sounds really fascinating, because I remember hearing about it. I'm like, I don't care about everyone's idiot opinions about idiot things. That's what the internet is. I've been on the internet.
People are like, it's about the Holocaust. It's about the
to be fair, at one point he's wearing a jumper and it says Apollo 11, so maybe that's what it's about.
Because it's the 1980s and it's
a
kid,
kid,
and people loved all that shit.
Yeah. There's a bit where, because I know all these, like, ooh, it's about the Indian burials, and at the start of the movie he's like, we buried on an Indian burial. We had to kill some Indians that tried to, when we were building this.
And there's like art everywhere.
Yeah, and there's a bit where he walks around and he turns and there's just like this big, like, I think it's towards the end when it's a big, like, I'm going to kill you with an axe bit or something.
Yeah.
I don't remember. But it's like, it comes around and behind him there's like a big on the wall painting, and it's something to, I just remember being like, I think I can see these shots being the things that people are like, because of the emotional character being here and here, and then we see this here, and I can just see the dots. Whereas for me, it's just like...
The Shining is, let's throw everything against the wall, and somehow all of it stuck for, how long did it come? 50 years.
Yeah, because
40 years.
When I watched as a kid, when I say kid, I mean like in that 15 to 18, where I was like, I gotta watch all the classic horror films, and I watched all of his big movies, like his space one, the horror one and stuff, and it kind of does feel like, though, that he's, I don't know, I just feel like, because it's Stanley Kubrick, it's like, you know, when Tarantino makes a war movie, I don't expect it to be a war movie, I expect it to be him doing a war movie.
Yes.
I feel like this is Stanley Kubrick doing a horror film, but I just feel like, I don't know, I just remember it being more, and it's just so fascinating to be like, no, it's a stupid ghost movie about stupid ghosts who just stand there and just like, I'm a spooky ghost and I'm just gonna stand here, and it's like,
see,
I think the person who should make the sequel is the dude who made Haunting a Hill House, because that's the most scary ghost I can remember ever in anything. Not that the whole series was scary, but there was that one bit where the junkie was like being followed around, and I was just like, and then when he was floating, and then the reveal of the broken neck girl, and there was just so many things where I was like, this is
the right guy for the job.
I just feel like Mike Flanagan knows why scary things are scary. Make it about a drug addict, and make the drug and all this stuff, and it just also because of ghosts. So all the trauma of someone who is an addict goes, I get it, but it's just not the ghost bit.
Yeah.
But I get everything else. Doctor Sleep is the same. I understand the movie.
Like alcoholism, trauma,
which is the same stuff in The Shining. In The Shining, it's one scene, whereas in Doctor Sleep, there's 3 really great scenes. I think much better, and funnily enough, the same scene.
Yeah.
Where he goes to the Overlook. And when I realized what was going to happen, I was like, oh, it's going to be all member berries and this and that. But every time something happened...
Kind of was. It teetered that edge.
It was 100% member berries, but every time it did it, I felt like it was saying something. Like, the blood rushed through the corridor and it hits the things. And then the witch lady with the hat looks at it and goes, shrug, who cares? And I'm like, oh, I get it. She's too... Like... She's so powerful that because I remember that happening, and I'm like, I get it. I just saw this movie 2 hours ago. The blood scene. Gotta put it in. Member movie. But for me, I feel like when I saw that, I mean, not that shot's in the trailer. In the trailer, I'm like, oh my God. So viscerally grossed out. But at this point, I'm like, I don't know, man. This is a sequel to The Shining. We're building for 2.5 hours. And the last 25 minutes is in the hotel. And it's my favorite bit of the movie. It's so good. The only thing I disliked is that when I was looking at the Overlook, in this one.
CGI.
Oh.
That bothered me.
Of what?
The hotel is like the outside exterior of the hotel is all CGI.
Oh,
do you know what you do? Just one little technical aside before you continue. Yeah. If you build a little bit of the set and then do the rest CGI, you sell it. And if they just built the entrance and then the rest, like the house in Parasite is CGI, but you don't know because they built enough of the house where people are interacting with the house. It's built and everything above it isn't.
And when you tell me that, I'm still kind of like, is it though?
Yeah.
Was it like? Are you just trying to pretend your visual effects are good? Like, when you just had a carpenter on the set, build a house. Whereas in this, for sure, I actually remember because it's like, you know, when more things I think suck in The Shining. So the movie starts and the amazing boom, 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 you know, and that plays and it's like very, very good. And then the camera's kind of moving and I'm like, The Shining starts. And then, so what I feel like happens at the start of The Shining is the editor, for this joke has to be not Stanley Kubrick, so presumably he's not his own editor. So the editor brings a cut to Stanley Kubrick the day before they're releasing it, and he's like, here's the movie. And Kubrick watches it and he's like, it's good. I've tortured this woman and you put it on screen. It's good. And then he goes, oh, you know what? Let's just go back to the start. I feel like you forgot something. He goes back to the start and he's like, where are the titles? Have you just not put the plug in for the titles or what's going on there? And then the editor's like, oh, don't worry, I've saw that. And then the editor's like, oh my God, calls his wife, tells his wife on the phone how to make visual effects, send it to him, then he puts it in the movie and they release it. Because it is the most shitty,
blue.
It's a weird color, it's a weird feel, and The Shining, it just appears and it's just like...
It's like the only thing that dates the movie.
It's the only... I don't know.
It stands up to time. I think that's one of the reasons.
I don't know if I think it dates it, but I guess it does. But I just think it looks like shit. It doesn't make any sense to me. I don't understand why the movie didn't start with black and just go The Shining and then cut in, or just have it big, or just do something where I wasn't like watching it scroll like he literally forgot. I did a shitty bit, but my point was it feels like he forgot and then went, oh, it doesn't matter, we'll just do it because, you know, when people are like, oh, you think that one visual effect was bad? It was, we ran out of time. And you hear them talk about it and you're like, that makes sense. Okay. I mean, having an excuse doesn't really, you know, J.J. Abrams has a lot of excuses, but I don't care about his excuses. Fuck him. You know, it's like, you can have these excuses, but this feels like he just was like, it doesn't matter, titles, just put them up.
Yeah.
But maybe he was like, I don't know. It just, that, I remember that was the only, that and the ending, the only things as a kid, I was like, because at the ending, it's just like, he was a ghost, he was always there, and it says like 1921 or whatever, and it's just like,
that is
but
another
he wasn't
thing.
There.
So I actually had a look. This is one thing that so the ending, it just never has made sense to me. So this time I actually went online and did some digging. I couldn't be bothered, and tried to find what the kind of main analysis of the ending is, because to me it just does not.
No, it's spooky ghosts are like, hey, and then
it just doesn't make sense.
Then now you've been here forever. Because the other guy's like, I've always been here. But we know he hasn't. Because at the start of the movie, the dude was like, hey, like 10 years ago, this dude killed his daughter. And we see the daughters. You know what was funny? He's like, because they're so iconic, I was like, this time I was like, oh, they're his daughters. Oh, that's his wife in the bath, I guess?
Yeah.
And just things where I'm like, oh, it's this or it's that. Whereas I remember as a kid, I'm just like, it's fucked up. There's like a bear giving someone a blowjob. Actually pretty unsettling. That's the only bit where I was like, that's pretty... It's just so... I don't know. I feel like this movie is... I can't... There's probably lots of movies like this, but this movie, like, when I think about, like, why it's big, I'm just like, it doesn't really make sense to me because the music is so over the top. The acting... I just feel like like, maybe if you didn't cast Jack, or I don't know the actress's name, but I should because she's phenomenal.
Duvall? Shelley Duvall?
Yeah, I think it might be that, yeah. Her performance is just so good and just so, like, it just pops. Whereas in Doctor Sleep, one of the things I found amazing, but also really jarring, because I just watched one and the other, is the recasting. Yeah. Because there's a bit where little Danny is cast again, and you see him riding around the scooter, and he turns, and I'm like, it's 237. I remember this movie, I saw it 20 minutes ago. And his face, just cuts to his face, and I was like, whoa! Oh, I don't want to see CGI Danny, but I also am just looking at some other kid who's doing cosplay, and that made it feel... And so what I think the reason is The Shining works is he got 3 actors that... Like, Stanley Kubrick just knows, he's like, I'm going to put the camera this close to your face for 5 minutes, and you're going to have to give me actual dread. Yeah. And I think, because I've heard stuff where he tortured the actress. He must have tortured the child as well, because the child's performance is... so spectacular, and there are so many bits where he's just like, and where he's like, what is his name? Danny's not here, and he's like, red rum. But this movie has scenes where a man just goes, red rum, red rum, red rum, and that performance is so like, red rum, red. It's like unsettling. But the scene is, the kid is being told by his magic powers that his dad's gonna murder him, but he's so young it's coming out backwards. Yeah. It's fucking retarded. It's so dumb. Shouldn't use the word retarded. But it's dumb, it's stupid, it's fucking insane. And it's just funny to me that this isn't a movie where I'm like, how good's The Shining? Everyone's like, you're an idiot. Why do you like silly horror movies? Like Evil Dead and, I don't know. It's like when I look at Psycho, even though I haven't watched it, I can see, well, it did this and it did this and this. Of course, back then it blew people's minds. And I guess this just came out at a time, because if this comes out today, it's laughable. A laughable soundtrack, but maybe it's only laughable. Maybe the stringy kind of like feel is generic now because we're in a 12-season American Horror Story post-world. You know, like, we live in this world with so much trashy horror and
all of the people making content now watch The Shining.
Watch this and crave. Because when I watched it when I was like, I'm going to make films, I'm going to be a filmmaker, I'm 15, I love I'm a cinemaphile. Don't know why I keep using the word, it's my least favorite word. As a kid, I was like, why do we get that? It's pedophile, but it's cinema... The podcast I listen to love being like, I'm a cinephile, I'm like, every time you say that, I'm like, I feel like you fuck DVDs. You know what I mean? Like, I was actually afraid I'd start doing rants just about the coronavirus, but it turns out I'm doing rants about this. No, I completely forgot what we're talking about. The Shining. So an aspect that I'm not sure how this is gonna play. I mean, I'm saying this just because, but it's like the actress that they get, because when little Danny runs off and it's like it's him, and I'm like, I've accepted new actor, and I love that it's like not de-aged, because it's just that's fun that we're not doing that.
I got to give him credit for just recasting everyone and going pretty close, but not trying to get anyone to do an impression as well. Like Jack Nicholson, is not doing a Jack Nicholson impression.
But it's also kind of weird because Jack Nicholson's character is also like playing Jack, but he's playing Jack as the detached bartender. So he's playing two characters submerged, which is why
he keeps saying, "I'm not your father,"
which I thought was a super cool troll. And I love that when he walks into the bar. You know what? I don't know. Maybe I'm just being presumptuous, but I feel like we know who's going to appear. I felt like I knew what was going to happen.
I said...
Maybe I knew who was going to be in it then. What did you think?
My partner, Jess...
You watched it together?
Yep, yeah. And I said, if it's a CGI Jack Nicholson, I'm going to turn it off.
Oh, yeah. You mean
and
like...
it wasn't.
You mean like Terminator Dark Fate style? Like where it's just a full scene CGI.
Like Carrie Fisher and Rogue One, like if it's just some
targeting
shit like
stuff.
that. Because I'd forgotten by that, because it's such a long movie.
Oh, yeah,
I'd almost forgotten the beginning
2 hours and 40 minutes. Oh,
and then when they recast him too, I was like... I really respect that he had the restraint to just cast new people, and this kind of, I mean, it's so connected to that movie, but it does just kind of stand on its own in a lot of ways. Like if you have a distant memory of The Shining, you can chuck this on and be fine.
I think it's better to rewatch The Shining to remind yourself The Shining is a stupid movie, and because my first reaction is Dr. Sleep. Oh, it's Dr. It's Danny, but he's older and he's got that weird power. And what was The Shining? Because when I remember the Shining movie, it's a tense horror film, and I was kind of like, why has the kid got magic powers? That's a bit weird. But now rewatching, it's like it's pretty central, and I hadn't really thought about it, but I kind of love that you're like, what is The Shining? And at the start of Dr. Sleep, he's like, it's an evil place. It sucks. It's like a vampire place. It sucks on your goodness, and your dad's a cunt, so it sucked on his cuntiness, and it just made him evil. I was like, cool. I like that you just summed it up and were like, this is a stupid universe where buildings can just make bad people evil.
Yeah.
And I was like, cool, because that's kind of what all haunted things kind of are. No, I mean...
I think the legacy of The Shining hurts The Shining as a movie. And I think if it didn't have all of this baggage attached to it and all of this ridiculous, like, overthought that has been just pumped into it for so many decades, I mean...
He's one of the biggest directors, though, so I think that makes sense. And it is...
But he's such a big director, I think. And this was the second point that I didn't get to earlier. In that there were two reasons. The first one, now I can't remember the first reason, but it doesn't matter because I said it already. The second reason is that he burns every single bit of footage he doesn't use. So no one can ever re-edit his movies.
Okay.
So
that's weird.
Can
you even do that anymore?
Probably not. No, because I guess the studios have a lot more ownership now than maybe they did then, because that was in that like kind of post,
where they owned the actors and everything.
Exactly.
And all that weird stuff.
Well, I guess Kubrick's career kind of spanned the whole thing. So I mean,
because he was making films
up until like the 90s, into the 90s.
That movie with Tom Cruise,
and he started in the 50s or 60s. So he actually saw the end of like the Tarantino, what was it, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, kind of golden age of Hollywood end, where you saw the film studios get a lot less power, and then the rise of like Lucas and Scorsese and Spielberg, who are the new like famous directors, and then
because I kind of feel like Kubrick was like coming up with them, but he was already doing shit. I mean, I just haven't seen those old ones.
Spielberg is like a massive Kubrick. I mean, everyone is a massive Kubrick fan, but Spielberg particularly, they've worked together a few times. I'm pretty sure Kubrick was meant to direct AI, and then Spielberg ended up directing it.
Yeah, I feel like it was something like Kubrick was like, you should make this Stanley Spielberg, and Spielberg didn't, and then Kubrick died, and then he was like, I guess I'll do it.
It would have been a better Kubrick movie, absolutely.
I haven't seen it.
I really have no idea what you would think of it, and I would kind of love to to hear your thoughts.
Because all I know is it's called AI and it's about a little boy, isn't it? Potentially from Sixth Sense.
Yes.
I was going to say, I feel like maybe I've seen a post and gone, oh no!
It is of that era.
Because I hate the Sixth Sense so much that I just don't think I could watch a movie where people from that are in it. I
think Jude Law's in it.
I like Jude Law.
It's just it's kind of in that middle ground. CGI wasn't great, but they use a lot of CGI, and
I feel like it's one of those sci-fi movies that I don't know.
But it's also Spielberg, and he's like really good at what he does.
Have you seen Close Encounters of the Third Kind?
Not in so long.
Because that for me is essentially nothing, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Like it's just a bunch of people being like, "There was a spaceship last night. I think I saw a spaceship."
Yeah,
and he like builds a model of the spaceship, and everyone's like eating dinner and turns his mashed potatoes into the spaceship or whatever. And then he runs off and sees this, and then some aliens are like, boom, 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 boom.
But they're
not playing keyboards. But it's an amazing movie. I loved it.
It's like the one Alien movie that came out where they didn't want to fuck everything up, and they just came out and held hands.
And that's why I like E.T. as well, because E.T. is just like a beautiful little alien man. And he's just, I love E.T. so much. I was just thinking through all Stanley
Steven Spielberg.
Thank you, because I've always found Jaws to be a bit like. Not for me. It doesn't.
Oh.
It's not scary.
It's
comical. The bit where it like goes like the forced perspective thing, and it pans him. He's on the beach. And it's just like, you've got to be kidding me. People think this movie's. I don't know. I just feel like maybe I just don't go swimming.
No, I don't.
So sharks don't scare me because I just don't go in the water. Because why would I go in the water?
I think it's a better film about that character than it is a horror movie.
Yeah, I feel
that's what I feel like. It's about his kind of family struggles and like trying to convince people of what's going on.
The best scene is when he has a scene with his son.
Yeah,
that's the best scene in the movie. Whereas for me, and there's a scene where they drink and it's very fun on the boat. That's a great scene.
But it had such a impact on culture and sharks and the beach
and the way that like the mechanical shark didn't work, so we couldn't show it. All that I love, but I feel like if you've got a movie about a big shark and I'm not like impressed with the big shark bits, where I'm not like I just feel like I don't know. I'm trying to think of another movie, but it's like I can't think of any other movies right now. But all other monster movies, I feel like at least have a bit where I'm like I could replay that bit where the monster gets that guy a billion times, whereas. I find the shark stuff really awkward. Maybe I just don't find sharks scary because they're on a... I don't know what it is. I've rewatched it a bunch of times. Unlike Psycho, which I've never rewatched because I hated it the once and I was like, I guess I just...
We're dividing a lot of people with this podcast, I think.
I actually think that an episode we need to do one week is when we finish an episode, I briefly talk about how much I hate the Psycho. And then I go and watch it because I'm sure I'll like it. It's just...
We should do Psycho and then that shot-for-shot Psycho remake.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
that would be
that'd be awesome.
Yeah. It would probably be a
Is that the one with Vince Vaughn or is he in the sequel?
Yeah.
Oh, no, that's
the sequel.
Yeah. I was just thinking, oh, no, it's gone.
Wait, is it the sequel? I don't know.
No, I think he's in the reboot. I think the sequel's got that actor. I think that actor is in at least 4 of them.
Oh. Anyway, we should probably talk about Dr. Sleep.
Oh, yeah. I have one last thing about The Shining. Just because I was thinking about scenes where I was like, this is stupid. Why is this? There is a bit. Every bit is like kind of a bit where it's like, this is so dumb. But I don't know. It worked. The mum, she's just running and like, she finds the typewriter. I actually love this one scene just when you realise he's proper gone mad. He's had the conversation with the ghost and the ghosts are like, you're going to kill your family? We're getting kind of bored. Nothing's happened for 2 hours. It's like, maybe I'll kill my family for no reason. Good idea. And it's like, I don't know, is that the point that like drinking like makes it like whatever? I don't know. There's things where I'm like, I feel like it's there. But in the second one, there's a bit where he's like, I'm a man, life's pretty tough. It's drinking, it's the medicine. And I was like, as someone who's recently quit drinking for... not civil reasons. I've never murdered anyone with an axe because I'm being drunk, but it was like, so I've quit drinking. I remember that scene really affected me. In The Shining, nothing affected me. There's 2 scenes, Dr. Sleep, where I was like, this is doing a better job. This is using the themes better. Yeah. Blade Runner. It's the themes, and I have to respect the old movie because it's old and all that stuff. But if you ask me which one we're going to watch right now again, even though I watched both yesterday, I'll put on Dr. Sleep again. There's a chick with a magic hat. And there's a bit where she drops the hat and the guy goes to catch it and she's like, don't touch my hat! And it's like, what happens if he touches the hat? And I'm so intrigued because it's so stupid because someone's like, it's a magic hat. She's like, yeah, it is a magic hat. And I'm like, I don't know, I like this.
Do they all have magic hats?
No.
Or does the other guy have a magic hat? You know,
oh fuck, because a whole freak show group have the magic hats, right?
Well, a couple do, I think. Definitely the second in charge.
The super tall guy? But yeah, it's just fascinating in The Shining because like the pivotal moment where the wife finds out that her husband has lost it and is evil, is a scene where she realizes he hasn't written a novel. He's written the same word over and over. And this time she's just like... And her big eyes are just like freaking out. And like the performance is everything. Because the scene is... A character finds a book, realizes it's not a book, and he's written the same words. No work and no play make Jack a dull boy. It's great, but I don't know. I was watching this time, like, there's a bit where some of it is action and then dialogue and then action again, and then some of it is like.
I kind of like that.
No, I loved it.
And there's mistakes.
And there was I saw bots and bod at points instead of like boy, and just I don't know. But part of me was like, I feel like if he was like insanely typing, it would just be no space. I don't know. There was something so ordered and so like these 3 pages are going to be in this style and these 3 pages are going to be separated by 2 spaces. And I just felt like it was someone being like, what would a maniac do? Like when I was 15, I'd be like, all right, we're going to have this crazy maniac thing. So I'm going to do all these things. And it's that cliche, you know, that meme of Charlie being like, from It's Sunny and he's got all this shit everywhere. And he's like, I don't know. It was just like, I feel like without this, there's no cliche, but it's just so fascinating to watch those things that originate these things and kind of go, isn't it funny that this is the biggest scene? But then, that scene has her with the axe, slowly walking away, and the film goes...
The bat.
Sure. Yes. Sorry, you're right. Yes, yes.
Yeah.
He's got the axe in that scene,
Yeah.
and the stairs and stuff, but she's holding it, so she's got like the power, if you will.
Yeah.
But she's constantly like walking backwards, and then like the movie's so much everyone's in one shot together. I mean, I could be wrong. This is how I feel. It's big, wide, it's epic, and then this bit it suddenly just goes boom, boom, and he just, you know, like the camera's there, and he's just coming at her, and it cuts to her, and she's like, oh, even though she's got the bat. And that whole sequence, and then he's freaking out, and he's like, oh, I've got responsibilities here. I can't just leave. And I'm like, this is fun. He's kind of being like, hey, you want to leave, so I've got to stop you. And he's justifying himself. Like with the hand, with the...
There's a very famous framing thing in that scene too, where she's framed by the chandelier, and it's like a famous painting of, I think, Mary...
the Jesus one?
Yeah. And he's kind of framed by a different chandelier, or it's framed by something and it's kind of devilish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and
don't like it now. Yeah. Oh, he's got horns. Ooh, clever.
It's on the nose, but it's also kind of subtle.
Well, I didn't notice.
And yeah,
That's my favorite.
You really have to know, I guess, the painting, and then you might spot it. But even then, And as he walks up the stairs, because it's like a orange light, he kind of goes red as he goes up. And I thought they were going to do that in Doctor Sleep, because they do the same scene.
They do the same scene.
But
they do the same scene, but I thought that scene was so good.
Yeah.
You know, I've watched that scene 3 times this morning.
I got to just say, Doctor Sleep, I have one big issue maybe...
I feel like we haven't done movies with issues, so today it's like, finally, movies are not perfect.
one issue that maybe it was explained in the movie and I missed it, maybe it wasn't, but the bad guys, the bad group...
The magic witches.
They die easier than a regular person. Like,
what do you mean?
You just have to clip them with a bullet and they turn to ash. I'm pretty sure...
Do you mean the scene where they all get shot?
Yeah.
Where they, like, every single one of them gets shot by a gun?
Yeah. They all die so easily.
I thought it was, like, more like...
It took so much tension out. I'm like, I guess... So the thing is that, like, they absorb people's souls and that's what's keeping them living longer. And I was like, oh, maybe because they've been extending their life so long with these souls that, like... Getting injured a little bit will deteriorate them really quickly.
Body.
But then the young girl who they've just turned gets shot and then dies.
8 years isn't that long, is it?
Yeah, she's 15, so she's in her 20s. And she gets clipped.
Okay.
She only gets hit.
Yeah, no, that's
they
a really...
died way too easy, and it took all the tension out of the movie. And all I thought was, if you swung by Walmart on the way to that hotel and bought an AK-47, you could have finished that chick off.
Yeah, okay.
Kind of, yeah. Instead, he gets the axe. Why? Take some guns. These people all die from guns.
The way you're putting it is more like get some very thin needles and just flick them. This is the I don't want to bring it up, but you've forced my hand here, you son of a bitch. This is the issue with Game of Thrones. They create an army that can be destroyed by everyone you get the dragon glass, you fine it down, and then you just flick it.
Yeah.
Because it touches the White Walkers and they disintegrate into ice. So when a White Walker comes, you just throw a bunch of it.
It's not a killing blow. It's just a stab in the shoulder.
It just has to touch. Oh my god, yeah. Okay, so I thought I didn't know what you were going to say, but I was like, I feel like I'm going to be able to defend this in some way. I have nothing to say. Because that was a very deflating moment, but I thought that was the point. Because you don't expect them to literally shoot every single one of them. And then they just go there and it's just like, it's not even framed like the final action scene. They're just like, choo, choo, choo. But everyone just gets shot and dies. But I thought that was, I don't know. I kind of
love how she goes, kill yourself. And the guy just puts the gun at his head and
pulls a preacher. That made me so angry. That made me sick. Like that's using the you're right.
But I felt like that scene was too easy. I liked that there was at least some cost.
A horrific cost. Yeah. I don't know, man. That guy was so nice. He was like, I've seen that look. And that.
But as soon as he died, I went, I see what you were doing now. He was this too nice guy.
Oh yeah. He did have to die.
Knew he had to die. Yeah. He's too nice.
I think it shows when I'm invested in the movie when I'm like, I don't know, because that's the issue as well though, like with The Shining, when the character rocks up and then just gets killed. There's no tension for me because I remember The Shining being a movie where the black guy rocks up and is like, I'm here, I'm dead, because someone needed to die.
However, he did save them. And without him...
I didn't notice that when I watched as a kid, but he's about to kill her and then the truck rocks up.
And the truck saved, if he had not driven in, had the kid didn't call him and have these powers, they would have been murdered like the last family. Yeah. So I did like that there was, even though he came and he...
Yeah. I think it's I guess... No. You are right.
I got to tell you something as well. In my readings of the behind the scenes, their original end was, and it kind of makes it...
Better? The ending is retarded.
He rocks up.
Stop saying that. He's just so stupid. He's wandering. He's like, I'm gonna get you. And the boy tricks him with a simple trick, and then he's just walking through the snow. And then because there's no tension, it just cuts and he's dead. And it's like, cut, he's dead. And they're like, how do we end the movie now? Because there's just nothing. What if he was always a ghost? He was always at the hotel. But don't do that.
I kind of like the fact that I mean, my reading, my reading of it was that he got caught in the maze, and had he gone and spent time with his family earlier, he would have been able to navigate.
Oh my god, I love it! No, that's amazing.
That was my reading of it this time, because
that's awesome.
Fantastic shot of him looking at the maze,
and then
the aerial. That's one of the best.
That's
just little, and him watching him.
Scene to scene transitions, metaphors, symbolism.
It's fantastic.
See, there's things like that where it's like,
this is a great filmmaker.
Yeah, I think it's
all on display.
It's a great filmmaker making the most simple story. I just forgot how many times the ghosts are like, good. I don't know, that scene where they're like, hey, your wife's taking the upper hand. We don't... Me and the other... It's because we can't see them. I just have this image of all the ghosts just sitting there being like, you're a little bitch! And they kind of like razz him into doing it like bullies. And it just makes the whole ghost community seem kind of insane. And then you have to presume the next people that go to the hotel that Jack will be like, I've always been here. Oh, I'm not that guy who did that. And I'm like, I get it, like the other guy, but... I really liked in this movie that he was there tempting... I
got to tell you the original ending.
Oh, yes.
So... black guy rocks up.
Yeah.
Overpowers Jack. Kills him.
Wait, what?
Yeah. Then the manifestation of the hotel goes from Jack into the black guy.
Oh.
And he's the new villain.
No good.
Yeah, I don't know.
Do you mean to end? Does it end there? Like cliffhanger
I think the movie continues to play out the same way, but it's just that it transfers from...
Oh, Dr. Sleep does that. The villain dies and then it's like...
Dr. Sleep does a lot of little things that... I think in the book, he survives. The black guy survives. And he's actually a character in Dr. Sleep, maybe, which makes sense.
That's why he has the dreams of him?
But they end Dr. Sleep the way the book in the Shining book ends. In that they overload the boiler and it blows the hotel up. Yeah. But Kubrick said, I didn't want to end with a big explosion because it felt too easy.
Yeah, that does feel too easy.
Yeah.
For sure.
So
I like that it exploded in this though, because for some reason, I'm aware that the book ends with... It must be because I knew that The Shining was going to be in this. No, that's not it. What am I saying? The hotel was going to be in this. Yep. From a trailer, people talking. I don't know.
It's like in Blade Runner 2049, they show the Harrison Ford bit in all the trailers, and you're just waiting for it the whole movie. Was exactly the same thing with this, and both movies are so long.
2 hours that you kind of forget, and then when it gets there,
you're like, oh, I've seen most of this. Less so with Dr. Sleep. I think they'd really released a lot. I was consuming a lot of Blade Runner 2049 stuff beforehand, which is my fault. Yeah.
I mean,
but yeah, I was just pumped because I love Denis Villeneuve.
It's a shame his movie is going to be on hold. We all won't see
June
for...
Yeah, well, that gives me more time to read the book,
yeah.
which I bought and still haven't read. I've been wanting to read June for a long time.
Alright, so... I think I've already told you this, but my favourite aspect was probably the fact that in the trailers I was like, why is the sequel to The Shining about a lady with a magic hat? Not a lady with a magic, but
it's a bit goofy,
It's ridiculous. Yeah. But in this movie... From the first scene, it's played very well. And I think this is just, who's the haunted house guy? Who can make ghosts not be dumb? Only one person. Mike Flanagan. Yeah. I'm only saying that from Haunting a Hill House. But I really think that's pretty damn good. It feels real. The whole time I'm like, this could just be a bunch of people going insane. And I kind of feel like he grabs...
Yeah.
He keeps
it rooted in character. Yeah. It's never just about the big ghost stuff. I feel like
it's not The Conjuring, or it's not a fucking Paranormal Activity.
Exactly.
It's not stupid, shitty movies that are like spooky. It's a nun, but she's face is scary because nuns aren't scary. It's like no. Same issue with it. It's like clowns are scary, so just clown. And I want it to be like, like Danny when it starts. He's like drinking and shit, and he's like that woman. He fucks the woman, and then he's like, oh, good to leave the house. And then the kid picks up the kid, throws it on the bed. He plays his kid on the bed. It's not like mean to the kid.
But then gives her some chips.
Yeah, and then he's just kind of like, takes the money out of the wallet, and then the guy's like, it's like he's either alive or his conscience. I'm not fussed with either way. I kind of saw it first as his conscience. And I like the idea that this hero...
Little aside, I got to say, absolutely most movie accurate vomit on a bed scene I've ever seen. It looks so good and real. I gotta say, vomit always looks like shit in movies for the not for the right reasons. It just looks fake. It looks too liquidy or whatever.
They've just got
gross
that
and chunky, and it had soaked in. It was
Then that had that weird. That disgusting kind of post-party,
too real.
Yeah, no good. And so him taking that money, I was like, I didn't expect this. I expected shut-in.
He was rationalizing it. She bought all that coke.
Yeah, totally. I could imagine myself if I was him being like, oh, fuck this, whatever. And it's like, okay, this is where he's at. And I love that, we get a bit of that and then kind of comes through it. I don't know, I loved how, disparate the things were at first. We kept kind of that family, and then suddenly the little kid's just like, magic or whatever, abracadabra or whatever. I didn't say that right. It doesn't matter. And just all these, and we're following a weird witch lady, at a cinema. I'm like, what's happening? And then that chick's like, why don't you go to sleep, you fucking pedophile? And then she's like, interesting. And I'm like, what is all of this? This is so much madness and just but it's soaked in this beautiful aesthetic. It feels... I just love the way the movie was shot. It felt, the acting, I felt like it was this beautiful character study, and then there'd be a bit where a magic vampire is too old and so dies, and everyone's real sad, but then he puffs into magic smoke and they all jump on him like fucking leeches, and they're just suck, and it was like, what am I watching? Do you think the fact that all of her team, her evil witches or magic vampires or whatever you want to call them, you think it's a bit weird that they're all kind of got that freak show carnival vibe, or do you think that was a good choice? Because part of me, there was a part where they're all hanging out and the guy walks up and he's she's on a van, top of a caravan, and he's I don't know, there was some weird talk where he's like, I had a dream about the magic child, we should get the magic out of him. I don't know, I was like, I don't know if I like that they're all freak show carnival people. I'm saying freak show, but I they've got that carnival aesthetic, and they got the super tall guy, and it wasn't a bearded lady, but it had that whole vibe.
That gypsy kind of,
and I feel like American Horror Stories ruined that for me, but I feel like that's now cliche. And I know that everything is cliche at this point. We're just too far into movies where you're just not going to be able to create things and someone's going to go, well, actually, there's enough stuff where everything can kind of in its own way be cliche just because everything's kind of been done. But I just feel like I couldn't think of, like, I don't want them to be business suit savvy. I was trying to visualize what I want them to look like.
I kind of like that.
What?
Them in business suits.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Imagine that.
They're
all just in corporate attire.
That's too
I guess they can't move around any environment. I guess you just have to...
They're roaming characters. It's like someone said, I want them to be like roaming carnival folk. And then someone's like, what if she's literally wearing a magician's top hat? And at the start is like, magic trick out of the hat. And it's like, what? And then it turns out she's an evil magic vampire. And someone said yes to that, which I kind of love. But obviously, this is just a Stephen King book. And this one at least accepts that all of his stories, I mean, I'm only saying this from the movies I've seen. I've never read his books, but I just don't read books. I read one book series once. It didn't burn me. I read a second one. It burned me. I'm done. Books are over for me.
Harry Potter and Game of Thrones.
Yeah, nice. I couldn't even read Lord of the Rings. I'm like, stop fucking singing. I'm not going to skip it because it's in the book. I didn't skip a single song in Song of Ice and Fire. Not one. But I couldn't even get past the elf. Oh my God. Doesn't matter. What are we talking about?
I want to nitpick something.
Yeah.
In Dr. Sleep.
Oh, I thought you meant Lord of the Rings. I'm like, go.
No.
I'll defend it unless it's the trees. Just all the trees, not the ants. No, go.
Jack, in the most famous scene in The Shining...
What is that?
Hammers through the bathroom door.
Yeah.
Here's Johnny! He knocks 2 panels out of the door.
Oh my God.
And when they go in Dr. Sleep, there's only 1 panel.
Oh, the panel he puts his head in? Oh my God, so this is a Jurassic Park issue. But is this movie good enough to excuse
They
it?
only did that because Ewan McGregor had to stick his face and they had to recreate that shot. Where he just looks through and looks at the window. Yeah.
Like, but see, I feel like that in the trailer, because I'm sure it's in the trailer, because I remember seeing the trailer and being viscerally like...
Yeah.
You know, it's just like, oh my God. But I fucking loved every second. I've been told by someone that the last hour of this movie is just member berry central. And then someone else was like, I disagree. And I was like watching them do this. Because I'm now just remembering this now. And they were like, nah. But I remember looking at that being like, oh, I feel like it's a member berries thing. I feel like
it is, but Mike Flanagan has thought about the material and is doing new things with new characters old characters and weaving it all together in the great way he does in every movie I've seen of his.
Yeah.
Like it's always rooted in character. It's never like... All of his movies are horror movies. I think they are. What do we got? Oculus, Hush, Absentia. I haven't seen.
Have I not seen any of the films he's directed?
I don't think so. And you would. I really.
Oh, I've seen Dr. Sleep, I suppose.
Yeah, you.
I suppose. I mean, I watched it yesterday. That's alright.
You would really like Oculus. It's got Karen Gillan.
Is Oculus? I think we've had this discussion, but Oculus has the title of a movie. Like if you said, let's watch all these shitty horror films. Ouija Board 2.
He did one of those.
Okay. So he did Ouija 2 then, didn't he? Because I think Ouija 2 is good compared to Ouija 1.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking someone said that and being like, that can't be true. Because it's called Ouija Board. And no. I refuse to accept that movie's good. But...
Yeah, I know. And I watched it and I didn't watch the first one. Yeah, the only Ouija film I've seen is his. And I was like... This is probably his worst movie, but it's still...
But probably because it's about a Ouija board?
Yeah, it's like you're so constrained by this terrible premise, but like, again, it's all rooted in character and it all works for the most part. It's just nothing really memorable about it. I think a couple of the scares are a little cheap, whereas normally they aren't. He's so much better. I think he's like David Fincher. He's better than the material he's working with. As soon as
Panic Room Syndrome. Yeah, I haven't seen Panic Room. That's what you said, though.
It's exactly right. Panic Room is just such a C-grade script, and David Fincher elevates it and casts it fantastically and does everything he can to make this movie as good as it can be. Yeah. But it's still the script that they had. It's still the Panic Room movie.
There is a film I think I've seen by this director, just because I feel like I knew it was the Haunted Hill guy, but I could be wrong. And it's about a little kid who has dreams about an evil man, an evil cancer man made of butterflies. Have Have you seen this movie? I don't think
it sounds very Mike Flanagan.
I think, and it's a movie where it's like, I'm pretty sure either like, I think the kid dies, no, I think it's a foster kid or something, and the foster kid goes to this family, and the family's like, yeah, and everything he dreams comes reality. So he dreams that their son is back, and they're like, oh my god, our son is back. And he dreams of butterflies, and it's all beautiful. Then he has these dreams of this spooky man, and the spooky man gets the dad, and like everyone dies, and then she's got to save him. And it's just generic kind of nothing, but it's so beautiful, and the character moments and what it does, you know, like,
yeah,
kind of like, yeah, it's got to be by him.
I don't know,
but I'm only saying this just because I feel like I looked at the films he'd made and went, oh, it's that guy, and because this movie he made before he made all his other films. And it was released after due to scheduling bullshit.
Maybe. I know there's a couple of his early ones I haven't seen.
And it feels like an early guy that knows, like, we look at it and go, this isn't a great movie. I wouldn't even necessarily recommend it. But this guy's next movie will probably be real good if he hones in, because it's like, it's substance over style, but the style's still really good. And so my thing with The Shining is it's all style and the substance is trash except for like a little bit. Yeah. And then in this, the style is really good. Maybe not as good as Kubrick, especially when we get to the hotel and he's like, look at all these shots. And I'm like, they're not as good. They're just not at all. So at least Kubrick's got that. But the substance is so much more substancy. Like the bit where he's like, I didn't know anything about my father. Then I started drinking and that was all I had. And I'm like, oh my God, there is only two types of alcoholics. Ones whose parents are alcoholics. No, sorry. If your parents are alcoholics, I generally find that you either become the same or you've never drunk ever before.
Oh yeah, you fight it. You swing the other way.
It hits you one or the other way, and it's obvious. And no. And I'm only saying that from personal experience. But there's this one girl in high school who never touched a drink. I mean, who knows what she's like now? I've spoken to her for like 10 years or whatever. But I remember, because we were all like drinking party, we were all 16, and she's like, I'll never touch a drink of alcohol. And she was just so firm. I was like, what? And then one person one day was like, I was like, oh, now I feel like I can't. Of course. I just didn't think about it. I was just like, you're boring, party. But like, no, of course. Why would you? Apparently, your family sucks.
Yeah.
Or, I can't remember who it was. It might have been a brother or what. But it's like, and I love that in this, it just, I don't know, like it shows you him first and you take what you take, then later on, I don't know. Yeah, I just really liked it. Ewan McGregor's performance is really good, but it's not like, I don't know, he's not very showy. Like he just...
Was he good? I mean, I'm not saying he's bad,
I thought he was really
but
good.
I don't know if... I think, the only real scene that stood out, I guess, is the bar scene.
Oh, okay. Well, I was just going to say, what about the bit of the bar where he's like, no, I just...
But the rest of the movie felt like he was fighting the accent to kind of...
Okay. Maybe I'm just too Obi-Wan, I don't know if he can...
He at no point was bad, and at no point did I think...
But you're right, he wasn't...
I mean...
I kind of like that, though. I like his, subdued kind of thing, and then...
I was just happy at the end of the film that someone finally pointed out that he was handsome. I was like, this guy's clearly not a hobo. He's the most handsome man I've ever seen.
Yeah, and she's like, where have you been
He's
hiding,
like a bum
handsome?
with a perfect beard.
Yeah. And when he shaves, he's got that, an aspect that I thought was incredible, and at the same time so filled with lunacy and stupidity that I was just like, oh yeah. In the final confrontation, she rocks up and she's like, I got you, you little bit. I also love that this movie is kind of about child prodigies. And the villain's issue is that she's dealing with a child prodigy and she can't accept to bring her under her wing because that other underling's like, maybe we shouldn't eat her. She seems pretty... She's like, someone more powerful than me in the group. Fuck you. And I actually thought she was going to kill him, and I'm really glad they didn't do that because he kept being like, maybe you shouldn't come on this mission. And she's like, no. But she was like, okay. And I like that because usually there's a weird scene in a 3-hour movie where the villain kills a henchman. I feel like, because we got so much stuff. And I loved that halfway through the movie, I'm like, why are we following her get this girl? And the girl had the girl killed his friend. But I think they just made that choice because she was more of a main character. But I like that she was we're just watching what she does. This is how she gets people. She finds someone with magic. She likes what they're doing. She likes that they're femme fatale. And she's like, hey, be in our team. I like this. And then, it's 8 years later. It's just well, it's just two I don't know, because there was part of me that was like, why are we doing this? Why are we following this?
Yeah.
But then there was a scene where the main character just, like the main villain just said something, and I'm like, oh no, it's because I'm invested. Like imagine if halfway we'd only seen her from the start where she killed the kid, then killed the kid, then now she's going to kill this kid. There's nothing. Whereas I love that they're like burying that body, and it's like, this is what we're doing. And she's like, I felt some magic presence. She's like, what are we going to do? It's like, well, there's nothing I can do yet, but at some point she'll appear again, and then we'll do it.
Oh, I got it. One of the best sequences in the movie is when she's flying over, and then the whole frame moves with her, and she goes into the room, and then it's like a mind palace Sherlock-y type.
It was Sherlock, but not shit. Somehow
her hand gets caught and sleeved.
Because she's like, oh, you've set this all up where all your stuff is, you stupid child. But the child set that up for her, like in this, then like spotlights her, and it's very theatrical.
And we had already set up Danny's one earlier in the movie, but we didn't even know it had kind of been set up until he mentions it again in the car. So that's when it all started coming together, and I was like, oh, this is what I wanted.
I don't know. It felt like they were deciding to be like, you know, if we're going to have magic and ghosts, we're going to have him have magic boxes, and he's magically trapped the ghosts in there. When that guy at the start, he's like, you have these little boxes and all that. I was like, I like this. This is to show how he's able to progress from child to adult. Yep. We don't need to see it. He's going to have done this. And they will be trapped in that box.
It's about confronting fear too, because that's
he
how you overcome.
That's
how you overcome fear. And I think he mentions like you can't stop the memories; they're always going to be there, but you can, and that's what it is.
He goes to put a memory in the box.
That's classic.
The same as taking a drink to forget.
So I think the way they handled the boxes and containing memories and dealing with trauma is very kind of accurate to real life clinical psychology, and it's kind of represented by the woman in the bathtub, and clinical psychologists when they have patients who have suffered trauma and they're experiencing PTSD, what they'll actually do is called exposure therapy. So if you're really afraid of elevators, they'll take you to the elevator one day, and you'll look at the elevator from afar, and you'll be like, have a look at it. We're all good. Let's go back to the office and talk about it. And then the next day, you'll press the button and call the elevator to you, and you won't get in. And then you'll go back and talk about it. And then do you think you're ready to jump in the elevator? But we won't ride it. I'll keep the door open, and we'll just get in. Okay. And it's a progressive... When you use the circuit of your brain that is about confronting fear, it's very different than when something fearful is just dropped in your lap. And you're using a completely different part of your brain. Using an approach circuit is very different from using your like fight or flight circuit. So when you've thought about the fear and go, I'm going to confront this and I'm going to approach it and I'm going to do it myself, you're using a different part of your brain. Your brain is wired differently, and you're able to process that a lot easier. And I think the way they represent that in the film, it's very accurate, and it's really bookended by these two young characters both confronting the same demon, this legacy ghost, the woman in the bath. Probably the most famous ghost in the original Shining. Literally the fear that has probably haunted Mike Flanagan since he was a kid when he watched The Shining. And that all horror directors have been frightened of.
If you kiss sexy girl, she might be old lady.
They kept using it, and
especially if you drink.
I kept thinking, why do they keep using this bath woman? Because it's just one part of The Shining.
Yeah, why not the bad boy?
Yeah, and I think it's because it is the really creepy. It's a great scene. Both creepy to someone who's young. It's creepy to someone who's entering their kind of sexual adolescence, because the woman's like beautiful and attractive, and then he kisses her.
And then she turns
into a horrible, rotting monster.
Really great visual effects as well. Like
the
original. The sound cues in The Shining when she actually gets out of the bath and her feet just touch the ground. I was like, it's really, really good. That's probably one of the only scenes where I'm like, I see why this movie's good. And Jack Nicholson's face where he's like, he's like, oh yeah, sexy lady. It's like, no, he's a disgusting man. Also, sorry, I'm going to come back to this movie. You know what I genuinely thought, and I have to say I'm aware before this watch, that this is literally how they decided him for the role. But watching this movie, every time he's like, I'm freaking out and you're not listening to me, woman. I was like, oh my God, I would love to see this guy play the Joker. And then I kept thinking, 5 minutes later, holy shit, he has, but that movie fucking sucks.
And he's not.
He's terrible in it.
Yeah.
There's a bit where he's just walking down the hall and he's like, ding, and
Yeah.
and he keeps like flicking his body, and I'm like, that. But I don't want to say this, but I've been forced to. If Todd Phillips had directed him in a movie, and then but just like I was like, yeah, it just blew my mind because I'm like watching this guy and I'm like, I can see how you'd literally get a shot from this movie, paint Joker Maker, and go, let's make him the Joker. I'm like, yeah, cool. And you have to respect the original Batman for like the animated series came after, so you have to give it all the credit because at least
what.
Oh, so the Batman animated series.
Oh, right. I thought you said give that movie credit. I was going to be like, no.
Well, yeah, no, because you've got to give the movie credit for spoiling the show. That show is dark and gritty because of that movie, right? Or is it the opposite?
I don't know.
I've always given that movie credit for that. That show's the best Batman.
The
There's
movie
no other Batman
is dark in lighting only.
Yeah. But like, his Joker performance, I think is terrible. Because you force the grin. Yeah. And it's the same issue that you have...
You constrain his performance.
Yeah, and you have the same issue in the Spider-Man movie where it's like, if you see Willem Dafoe, you're like, why'd you put a dumb motorcycle? Yeah, don't do anything to him. He's a fucking monster. He's a gremlin-looking monster. Like, that's just how our brains work. You see certain faces and they go, oh, it's like a gremlin. And he's got that... the big features and stuff. And watching Jack Nicholson in this was just very like... So my main thought was, since every week we've got to talk about the new Batman movie, which I guess now is never going to come out because the world is ending, but let's hypothesize as if the world isn't, and it will come out, which it won't. How good would it be if Jack Nicholson played like old retired Joker? So you could do like a dark, gritty, because this is gonna. Have you seen the posters of like the Batmobile? Where it's just a car and like
with red lights,
and it's just lit like kind of Blade Runner-y kind of feel. Oh my god, it looks so good. Yeah. That car looks incredible.
I like that it is radically different from the last thing we got. Whereas the Zack Snyder car felt too similar to everything. Like it was kind of similar to the comics, kind of similar to the Arkham games, kind of similar to the Tumblr. Kind of similar, like it had kind of taken a bit of everything, and it was kind of nothing as a result.
But it didn't really get any scenes.
It did, but he can't shoot a car chase.
I was gonna say
Batman v Superman car chase is the worst car chase maybe in movie history.
Is that the one where
because he shot the whole thing on like a telephoto lens, so you can't see anything. You need to shoot a car chase with wide lenses.
Is that the bit where he picks up the car and throws it into the other car and like
uses it like a wrecking?
Yeah. So I don't know if I kind of consider that a car chase and more like just part of the action sequence. Whereas I feel like if I like
it's just
want to think of like a car chase, I feel like I want to like I don't know, like the tumble bit. There's like I don't know. I actually think the bike is what I like. It's like when he's on the bike and it's like everyone's doing things, but he's on the bike, you know. And you get bits where it's just like dun 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 dun, and he's just on the bike, and I can see that he's on the. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And there's that bit in the other one where he's on the rooftops, and they're all like
in the first one.
Is that the first one?
Because in the first one he's running away from the cops. In the Dark Knight, he's going after the Joker. And then he crashes it, and then the bike comes out, which is just the most genius.
Yeah.
I remember the first.
Great. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
I was just saying, great. The so many times I'll see something like that's so dumb and stupid. It doesn't like why do that? Whereas like every single friend of mine was like, the wheels in the motorcycle are so stupid. It doesn't make sense. I'm like, what do you mean it doesn't make sense? I saw it go. Boop. I saw it make sense. So when someone's like, he couldn't have done that, but it's like, I just saw him do it. So
yeah, I feel like someone made that exact same.
It doesn't.
And I was like, what are you talking about?
It's awesome. I mean, it doesn't make sense. The wheels don't. It couldn't do that, but it doesn't make sense
because it's like a fork.
I feel like I've seen it and been like, I don't know.
Like you said,
no, but you see it do it, so it doesn't matter if it's a visual.
And then he does it again in The Dark Knight Rises. And
there's a bit where he's like, he can't like do the corner, so he like hits the wall and it's like, oh, that's so good.
Yeah.
There is actually one aspect of Dr. Sleep that has I saw it happen, but I don't believe it.
Okay.
He has the axe. He's like, we're gonna fucking do this. She's like, let's do this. And he's like, axe. And then she catches it, but like not enough. Like kills her. No, he hits her.
And again, going back to my point earlier, if they get shot by a bullet and die immediately, why did the axe wound in her shoulder not kill her? I don't understand.
Yeah, you found an awful plot point.
I just don't get it. I was waiting for them to go, we use silver bullets. Or something dumb that would have been like, okay, it all makes sense. You figured out the weakness or something.
Or like a really funny thing where like, Danny like looks at the other guy. I don't know, no. You don't want, I was going to say you realize that the other guy like brought silver bullets. Something that he's been, I don't know, but that's stupid. I don't like that because that's like kind of trying to have fun with it.
But it is at least an explanation.
I don't know if this movie was having fun with it though, which I think I liked. I liked that it was super serious. And actually, no, that's not true. The kid, who at first, in the first hour, I was like, she's not in and enough to give you anything. But there's that bit where Danny's just like hanging out and then she's just there and she's like, hey, I'm here. And like, she's in control. He's like, oh, I don't know. I'm an adult. Maybe I shouldn't be having this conversation. Because that's literally the first thing I thought. I'm like, I don't know if I'd have this thought, Danny. But it's just, I don't know. This isn't going to play well, Danny. You're going to... And I thought maybe that's going to be a thing. And then she's like, it's fine. I'm in control. I just love that she was like, I've got these magic powers. I'm going to use them. And then she just uses them. And it's like really powerful and fun. And like she traps the lady. She's like, here, spotlight. Your fingers are coiling. You have to rip them open. And like all these just insane things. And what I really loved is at the end, the chick is so like overwhelmed by this prodigy she can't deal with. Doesn't want to bring under her wing and do any of that. So she's got to take her out before she's too powerful, but she keeps underestimating her. So she jacks up on all like the magic juice or whatever. They call it steam, which I love when movies...
I guess that's the explanation maybe why she didn't immediately die when...
No, because her hands are ripped apart, and when she drinks that, she heals.
Yes, okay.
So she's... Yeah, so I actually... And earlier in the movie, I don't necessarily know if she would have looked at like a sea of blood and gone... She might have been like, geez, that's pretty powerful. But she's just like... I love that though, because it's like... I don't know. Yeah, it's something that shouldn't work for me.
I don't think it worked for me.
Yeah.
I hear you say it, and I'm like, okay, I see.
But it was like playing out, and I'm like, no, I don't know.
I think the thing that bothered me was that there was no connecting shot of her looking at the elevator blood.
Do you mean that they're in the same position? But it's not there. The blood isn't there. It's.
But she's.
No. But that sea of blood was never going to hit her.
Okay,
it's a vision.
But still,
it's a vision for the kid.
You can show the shot. I mean, she's looking at the elevator that is there, and then the vision of the blood.
I think if you have
just not like a cutaway shot.
Yeah, but
I was like, I don't know.
I think that's the exact point. I think that having a connective shot, if I had been the editor, I'd been like, we're cutting this because this connects her and that, which makes because she's real, and that's not. And when you see the twins, it's often just they're there, and then Danny's there. I'm going to talk about the original as well. I could be wrong. There could be lots of scenes with it all together. But for me, it's like...
No, every time Danny sees the girls, you see him in the frame.
Yeah. Or with him there as well.
Yeah, he's in the bottom of the frame and they're
okay, well, I'm wrong.
Do you know why?
I'm visualizing it differently. Because he's cutting to his face and he's just like...
No, do you know... The reason I remember is because every time I watch The Shining, you can pick... Because there's so much footage of him riding around, but you know when the shot of the girls is coming because the camera's higher up.
Love it.
Whereas normally it's right behind him and following him like that. The one time it's up here, it's framed to go around the corner so they're there.
Yeah.
Which is why I'm always like, the first time I watched it is the only time it worked because every time since I'm like...
I know it's coming now.
I know how you... Because the shot is so iconic. I know how it's framed. And I know...
I had the same issue for when... what's his name? The cook?
No. That's a thinking club.
Yeah. Doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The cook, magic cook, let's call him.
I only remember Jack's name because it's Jack Nicholson.
I remember Danny because...
Oh yeah,
like, Danny!
And he's in the sequel and they beat it into you.
Yeah. The his what am I going to say about the cook? Oh, I forgot what I was going to say. Doesn't matter. I'm now going to say something else about the recasting. There's a scene right at the start where he's like I think he's talking to the cook and the cook's like, here's a box, magic box. Put your memories in a magic box. Or your demons or whatever. And he's like, oh well, good idea. Thank you. This will come back at the end of the movie. It's either going to really work or absolutely not work depending on who you are, I'd imagine. Because it really worked for me, but I was like, this is so stupid. I love it.
Yeah.
He's got the demons at the first movie in a box and the chick's like, can I see what's in the box? He's like, sure. And then she dies. It's like, that's so stupid. What's in the box? And like he even has like a line. It's very like the same as Star Wars, where he's like line, and then she's like line. You know, like when I say line, I mean line of dialogue. Like, cliche. And it's like he's like I know, she's like, are they special? And he's like, no, they're not special. They're starving. But her performance, because she was the reason I was like, this movie looks like shit. There's a magic lady who's camping it up with a magic hat. She's probably the best part of the film.
Yeah, she was really good.
Her performance is so amazing. Her charisma on screen and she's awful. She's so unapologetically awful. She's like relishing in child murder and depravity. So she loves her child murder. She loves her magic. She loves dressing like a hippie. Fucking get a job.
She has a pretty sweet caravan too.
She's... Well, I guess you could just magic up shit. I don't know, it's so undefined.
They've lived for thousands of years or something.
But
no one's ever shot at them.
Actually, there's one bit... Actually, no. I'm going to talk about the bit I like, then I'm going to go back to the bit I hate, because I think I'm going to forget about the bit I like. She, at the moment where the movie reveals that he's kept all the demons from the first movie, the ghosts, in boxes, in a row, Sherlock Holmes style, written by Stephen, I'm the worst writer ever, Moffat. It's like, he's done all the things that are so stupid, and because I rewatched this scene at the end so many times, not so many times, but I finished it tonight, yes, I watched it all, fell asleep towards the end just because work,
And 3 hours.
I'm just so tired.
We should say we watched the director's cut of this movie.
Yeah, so I have no idea, but the other one's half an hour shorter, and I can't imagine, that's why I wanted to watch this.
I wonder what...
I can't imagine. Yeah. There's one scene where they kill someone again, and they kind of like, I'm like, I can see maybe you'd be like, hey, they've killed 2 people. Do we need this?
Yeah.
But I can't, but now I'm visually, I'm like, did they? I don't know. There was a bit in the middle where I'm like, hey, this feels like repetitive in the way a 3-hour movie could be. Yeah. And this is what you'd cut.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't cut anything. I thought it was fucking sick. The bit that I don't know, there's probably trimmings as well, but she, at the end, is all like, I'm a magic girl and I'm in your brain and I can't believe I missed you. And I also love that she's so cocky and like the bit where she's like, you're gonna fucking die in this maze, and she's like, run through the maze, and instead of when they're in the maze, it's like going slowly. It's like quick shot, quick shot, quick shot, and I was like, oh, this is not The Shining. Yeah. I like this. And then
I thought they were gonna do the footprint thing again.
Yeah, and I
kept waiting. I even said, you watch. He's gonna like walk back over his footprints, just like in the original.
I would hate that.
Yeah,
because I love that the kid outsmarts the idiot alcoholic father, because the father's he's not thinking, and I like that. I'm like, and also I like that when you watch The Shining now, it's like, I was like, hey, the son gets out his ingenuity, and like, I don't know, he gets out of the situation, and he's the main character we're gonna follow in the next movie. So I found that kind of fun. But in this bit, she's got a knife and she's like, magic him here! It's like Spider-Man with Thanos, like, magic him over here, magic him over here, magic him over here. But she's doing it with a knife, she's like, magic with a cut, magic with a cut. And exactly like Thanos is like, I'm sick of this shit. Boom.
Yeah.
It's the same scene.
It is.
It's the exact same scene. Yeah. They stole it from Avengers Endgame, Infinity War. That is... Someone's getting sued, Mike Flanagan, you fucking hack! No. But it is the same scene and it's awesome. And she's holding her up and she's like, you fucking little bitch. And then she's like, your fucking mind palace is all...
And then the box comes in.
And as the box appears in the wide, and you might not notice, but I did, but I was just so enthralled by it. Because I really liked that they're like, let's use this brilliant visual from the first one and do something with it. And the maze kind of reminded me of Harry Potter with the spooky maze. Yeah. Just a scary thing to be trapped in a maze. Fuck that shit. And she's holding her, and as the box comes in, and she's like, hey, this isn't your dream. What's going on here? And then she throws her away, and you're like, oh, the box is gonna get her. He's gonna get her on a box. And then she's like, no! And it explodes the box, and I was just like, I don't know, man. There's nothing in a trailer that makes me want to watch this, but this is awesome. And I love how they've just gone, this is full on magic. Yeah. Mind palace, but not in a way where
everyone's is their own and specific to them.
Yeah, and you build, and she at one point she's like, everything's a library. And the maze is its own library. It's just he's used it for reasons we know, because we've seen the movie.
And of course the little girl's is her room. That's probably where she feels most secure and
And I love the fact that when he's like, we're gonna team dream up, and they dream each other, and
dream
it cuts.
Warriors.
They dream warriors this shit, and we go into his dream, and she is so kind of blind by the child prodigy's like magic that she doesn't even imagine it's this other person's dream. And then she and I don't know, it's just like she's about to be swallowed by a box, And yet, when she gets into her mind, it's her performance when she realizes there's other things, and it cuts to the shots of Danny on the little bicycle and the dad being like, I'm gonna get you, and she's like, oh, what all this crazy, and then she starts seeing the ghosts and all the demons, dreamy ghost things, and she's like, it's that moment where she realizes that something really powerful and really special is in there, but she doesn't think about it realistically and properly, and she gets so obsessed with what she can consume that she's just like digging away, and she's like, I don't care if I dig through this mud and then stab myself. It doesn't matter because I'm going to get to that goal. Like, I don't know, it was just such a great thing, and just her performance then, and then his just go, open the boxes, and it was his, because I don't know, when they were going, I was like, where are you going? And she's like, it's bad for me. Hopefully it's bad for her. And I just love that, I don't know, it's kind of lucky that it turned out that way and that they weren't all teaming up and she isn't like, I'm queen of all the ghosts now and they all command me, like King of the Godzillas did. Where it's like, I've got 3 heads. Oh, okay, smart. It doesn't matter.
I don't care. Yeah,
oh, yeah.
I might watch it.
In that movie, King Ghidorah rocks up and they're like, all the other monsters are following him because he's the most monster of all of them. He might be the king of the monsters. Oh, no. And someone's like, Godzilla! But they split up, so 2 people say it's the worst thing in the world. We should do that one week. Thanks so much. I
got a lot to say about that first Godzilla.
Oh God, yeah.
What's it? Rogue One boy, Gareth Edwards.
Is it?
Yeah, the guy. They're the same movie. Yeah. They're both the same thing. There's like 5 minutes of awesomeness right at the end that tricks everyone into thinking it's a good movie.
It's such a great 5 minutes of that movie though.
Yeah.
Have you ever just like got on like download it and then just watch the last 20 minutes? It's
all
so
I've done.
Good. Yeah.
I watch it once at the cinemas.
I'm kind of glad it exists so that I can just do that. Like, which isn't really. I shouldn't accept it.
It is unacceptable that they cut away from their first fight and then show news footage of it.
Yeah.
I could not believe. I was so angry in the cinema. I'm like, you just robbed me of half my movie ticket. You're wasting my fucking time just to build to this and fight. Look, I get it, but there's really 2 minutes of fighting.
Oh yeah, no, it's not. And
we needed another middle chapter fight.
And the only reason you feel like that is because the characters aren't interesting. Have you seen The Host?
No, Boo Jong-ho.
There's probably 5 minutes of monster in that.
That's fine, yeah.
It's the greatest movie ever because the fucking father is like unable to pull himself together to save his daughter, but he has to save his daughter. And it is a spectacular movie. And I bet you there's only 5 to 10 minutes of actual monster on the screen. Yeah. And I can only visualize one scene with the monster. And it's the first time you see it. And it's like, oh, the monster! And it does that for a little bit. But then it's just a story about a man, trying to get his daughter, and the family and like the politics of the world and all that stuff. So I think that's probably the issue with Godzilla.
He's not a good director.
Gareth Edwards.
He's not. Yeah, I mean, he's very good at a specific set of things.
Salt. It's my favorite thing in the world. So I kind of hate him because he's in that movie, and it's like, am I meant to not know it's him?
No, he's great at implementing visual effects with live action. He's amazing at showing scale and shooting from a human perspective.
Because Rogue One isn't as good as Godzilla. I just think they went, hey, remember that scene
But all of those things are as good. The Death Star.
It probably is. I just hate Rogue One because the story sucks so much.
Just think about how many...
The visuals are so good. It's probably a better looking Star Wars movie, maybe.
Oh, of the Disney ones?
Oh, yeah. No, I don't mean all of them.
But like everything 2015 onwards, there are 20 images in Rogue One I would print out on a wall, and there's not one shot in the new trilogy that I would... No, actually, Last Jedi has a couple. Last Jedi is probably the second most beautiful. I love the bit where she, in the first Force Awakens, where she lives inside the desert where it's got the starship, because that's such a good remember the old times. This is and that's not. I've really soured on that movie. Yeah, no. I need to rewatch it. You've got to think of that shot standalone though, on a thing. Because Rogue One, you're right. There's those bits where you see it and it eclipses the sun and then. Yeah. Because I was thinking my favorite bit in Godzilla is the bit where you see a man, so you get the scale, and then there's an explosion and a truck explodes. And then another 6 trucks explode, and it's and then you see the foot destroy all the explosions in one, and it's just that's a big foot. That's a big foot. It's that's pretty good. Godzilla's real thick in that movie. Yeah, it's good though. You got maybe a bit too thick. Yeah, I think people had an issue with that. They're like, I don't like his visual, and then people had kind of the opposite feel. They're like, he's so thick, but he's running real quick in the new one. What's the deal with that? And it's like. I guess he has been like slumbering for 100 years. You would get a bit fat.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's a cool visual though. I like the visual of him. I just hate the
looks kind of like a slug. He's got a little head,
but
like a big fat slug body.
Isn't it kind of what it looks like? I don't know. I haven't really seen enough of the old.
I see what they.
Well,
I have. I watched all those old ones when I was a kid, and it is kind of like that. He's kind of got thick legs, the old one.
Yeah.
And a kind of bigger body, but not as.
But he's like a big, slow kind of dinosaur.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Also, the sound design in those Godzilla films shit me because they just use the same sound effect.
I can't do it. Yeah.
And it's the same one on repeat again and again and again.
Doing this new Godzilla film?
The 2014 one, yeah.
Bryan Cranston one.
You know what? And we're going on a real tangent here.
No, I love it. I was watching
really love the Japanese new one.
Shin Godzilla?
Oh my
god.
God.
You know how I had that list of like post-apocalyptic movies? Because spoilers, let's date this. It's the end of the world.
Yeah.
Oh shit, that turned off.
Oh, great.
God damn it. Cut! Thing about Godzilla, it's like, you know how I had that list of like potential post-apocalyptic but nothing to do with viruses list we could do? Mm-hmm. I was going to say it'd be really fun to do like American Godzilla and the Shin Godzilla. Yeah. Or just, because I don't know. I just love doing like things together. Like even this, it's like, it's just fun to like, it just changes it a little bit as well. And I feel like every movie, I was thinking about this today on the car ride. It's kind of funny how movies like this movie can't help but be in a world where everyone sees it. Like, I don't know, it's like 20 years ago, if this movie had come out, no one would be like, that ends a bit member berries, because member berries hasn't been a thing, because South Park didn't do the member berries season, which like cemented, I think, for everybody, the last decade of film. It's member berries. Yeah. Everything is like, remember this, remember that, and you're like, remember? I remember. Oh my god, it's the greatest thing ever. It's like, South Park's so good at just doing the dumbest, most basic, simple thing, but like
hitting the nail.
Finding, yes, that's it. I don't know what I was. Yeah, it's just.
I agree. I agree.
Yeah, it's just those. But so like, you know, like this movie, it's a sequel to The Shining. Sorry, we're not talking about Godzilla anymore. Okay.
Back to
whatever the hell we're talking about.
Shining.
Doctor Sleep is such a fantastic name as well. Doctor Sleep, and I love. You know,
they say the name of the movie.
Yeah, I kind of love it when they do that because I'm always like,
We watched a movie recently together and both did that, I think, yeah?
Was that Guns Akimbo?
Probably. I think because they do say it.
Do they?
Yeah, they do.
You're like some kind of Guns Akimbo. Daniel Radcliffe's like, what? Yeah. By the way, short review for Harry Potter and the time he had guns for hands. It's fine. It's shit crank. It's shit verve.
I like it less and less the more
I hate it. Yeah. I think I only tolerate it because I was like, you know, I can't get angry that they put in Twitter and YouTube and there's a fat guy on a couch being like, I love this content of people killing each other. But it's like, I don't know. I was bored of that idea when the Hunger Games came out because I was like, I've seen the Japanese one. Boo! I get it. I've seen one take of this. I'm already done with this.
Yeah.
And none could be better than what if you all had to kill your school friends in a bus. That's just so much better for that, like... And then you've got the whole, the world's watching and this and that.
Guns Akimbo is like that would have been the greatest film of like 2006.
Yeah. But see, like I saw one that was like a PG version, Nerve, where it's like, this girl's like, I'm so cool, I'm gonna do this wild thing and curl my hair. And then it builds and builds, and she's shoplifting. Then she's got a gun. But it builds in a progressive way where it's not like, I got guns for hands! Nothing makes sense! Bam, 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 CJ, nothing, and there's no feeling, because they're just killing people and it's...
Headshot, and not getting hit, and yeah.
Yeah, and there's no feeling that they're holding guns, it's just props that are going... Yeah. Whereas in this other one, it's like, I kind of did feel like it was like a bunch of kind of girls who use social media getting a bit too involved, and then like, it's also got that girl who's the main Scream Queens chick, the main chick from some of the American Horror Story seasons.
I haven't seen any of them.
Oh, she's just very like, she's like very small, petite and pretty, but she's always playing the I'm sexier than everyone in the world, but she just plays it so well where I'm like, if your typecast is that role ever, it's just because you're so good at it. And it's, you know, it's just, and I just love watching it like that. You should watch season 1 of Scream Queens. It is fucking hilarious. Yeah. And it's mostly great. I don't know what we're talking about.
Shining and Doctor Sleep.
Yeah,
True.
true. They are movies.
Well, I think this discussion is maybe the first time that we've had a discussion that has made me like the movie significantly more.
Okay, yeah.
I think the more we talk about it, the more I go, yeah.
So you
know?
so
Not that I didn't like it. I think it just finished, and I was like, that was so long, and there's so much in there to kind of think about and process. And now that we're kind of diving into it, I only watched it last night for the first time. So Shining, I've been able to process a bunch of times, and I finished that, and I was like, all right, I think I got this movie. And then I did a bit of Googling and a little bit of research and read that producer interview, and I kind of went, okay, this is backing up what I kind of thought, and this is just the best made haunted house movie ever.
I think that's just
it.
It's like the style, yeah. But I also think it's like whoever cast the movie did such a fantastic job, and I know like, well, she's the character, so it's just it is. But you know, all the recreation, I just love as well. You're gonna recreate the exact shot, but you could just recast it. You don't just use the footage, which is that was nice.
Yeah.
And so like, there's a bit where he's looking through it, and then she's just like with the knife. I'm like, I just saw that like 20 minutes ago. I
actually couldn't tell. I was like, was that the original footage, or was that did they reshoot it with the new actor?
Because it's perfectly done, perfectly acted. It's a recreation.
It was, yeah, because all the other stuff was.
But I think I might have mentioned this earlier. I feel like I tried to say it, but I didn't. But it's like when you first see the lady at the start, because Danny's like off with the box, and he walks up, and then you hear like, Daddy, and you hear her freaking out. It's the voice. Not to say they've taken the voice from The Shining, but I'm saying her impersonation of Shelley Duvall, what do you say her name is?
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't know. Woman Stanley Kubrick tortured, and I don't know. It's terrible that we know. Yeah. Doesn't matter. She's fucking amazing in it.
Yeah.
And the new person is fine, but her voice, I was like, oh. So I wasn't sure. I was like, it's gonna be her, or I don't know what I expected. But then she appears, and I'm like, it's just some attractive Hollywood lady. She just looks like, I mean, when I say plain, I'm like, she looks like a very, very attractive but normal Hollywood just actress. And I don't think I realized, but Shelley, let's say Shelley, whatever. Duvall, yeah.
Hopefully.
She's just like such a character. Like, she's like kind of pretty. Like, I don't think she's like ugly in any way. She's pretty, but she's just so like...
A couple of wide shots I kept kind of seeing Uma Thurman at times. I was like,
sure. I don't know. There's just something like her eyes are like 7 times bigger than her face.
Yeah.
Her mouth is so big, and she's just so expressive and so like. I love just her performance, and part of me sours because every time she's giving a really great like kind of moment, part of me is like, what did he do? He didn't need to do whatever, because I just know that she was like losing hair on set, and I've just heard a lot of really. Right. I don't know if you didn't.
No, I haven't.
Oh,
I've heard you talk about it a few times.
Yeah, this is one of those things from like I could Google it and be like, oh no, that was Eyes Wide Shut with whoever's in that movie or whatever. But I'm like so sure, just because I've always remembered being like, that performance is perfect, and then being like, but I'd rather this movie never existed and he hadn't tortured her, just because. What the fuck? Like, no movie is worth that. Like,
yeah.
Even when someone like, except for like a Tom Cruise spraining his ankle, because I'm like, hurt your body as much as you can for these movies, just because it shows that he doesn't give a fuck and he's still 60 or whatever.
Yeah.
But apart from that, it's like, no, if someone like sprains an ankle or whatever, just stop production. It's just a movie.
Yeah.
Like, nothing matters.
Like Poltergeist with the real corpses.
Yeah, like that's insane.
Shit like that.
No, that's horrific. Yeah, no, I don't.
Like, someone knew that. Someone knew that was happening. Someone made that decision.
Yeah, I don't know. It's like movies are everything to me. I love a good movie, but you don't need to do. They're actors.
Yeah.
Like, what's that thing that Dustin Hoffman said to like that guy who like method acts, which is the dumbest thing. Jared Leto's ruined method acting, and Daniel Day-Lewis is a piece of shit. Fucking don't build a house and live in it while you're making this shitty film. Just fucking act. Like, you don't need to prepare. I don't know what Dustin Hoffman says, but it's something like, oh my dear, did you not know that it's called acting? Or something. It's like, you don't need, I don't know. It's just so good, because it's like, the point is to like, it's not just so much that you just come in and go, line, boop, boop. It's, I mean, some are like that. Like, I imagine Cats was quite like that, or just whatever. But like, I feel like you should be able to kind of just switch it on and off.
Yeah. The process of filmmaking is so long-winded and laborious, and so much time spent not shooting that they're doing that. I wouldn't want to work with someone like that.
And for instance, I don't know, like there was one scene we've shot together where like the actor had to be completely nude for the scene, and it's not like we just went pants off, and it's just the same. It's like no, we have to close set.
Yep.
Close set. This, that, we
don't fuck around. Don't make stupid jokes. Let's make the guy comfortable.
Yeah. And you bring him comfortable, and you make sure that everything's good. Then you shoot the scene, and you
had a little chat with everyone before.
Yeah, and you make sure everyone's aware. You make sure that no one can be. I don't know. If you have and I would imagine the same is for high-strung moments where you're like don't want to do this scene a bunch of times. You just want to, maybe we're doing this once a day for a week, and we're gonna try and who knows. And just the idea that I feel like it's stuff like the director was like, no one can talk to her today. No one, like, cameraman, sound guy, but pretend she doesn't exist. And so she's getting this isolation.
Yeah.
And it just fucked up like mind games and just stuff where I'm like, forever since then I'm like, Stanley Kubrick sucks. Like, he's not a good person. And and the movie's not good enough. I say now, the movie's fucking not good enough.
To warrant
But
that.
saying that, I kind of take that back because I don't think it matters either. Even if it was good. Even if it was the best, my favourite movie ever, and I'd never watched any other movie. I just kept watching The Shining on repeat. So I just said a whole thing. I've just got to maybe say, this was a very long time ago when I read this, so I'm just going to say allegedly, because I literally could have been like a media teacher or like a website there. I don't know. You could Google this and be like, oh, it's actually a bit of, it was a producer here say this. I just remember being like, that is proper fucked up. What the hell? Isn't he meant to be like the director? Why was he allowed to do that? I want to stop talking about that. I have two issues with Dr. Sleep. There was a bit where she's like, evil witch lady, magic. She's like, call me Rosie with a hat or whatever. And I was like, no. I'm going to call you Magic Chick with Magic Hat. Fuck off. Don't tell me what to tell you. Call you... This Magic Chick with Magic Hat lady is like her tall boy, old tall boy dies. And he's like shape-shifting into like skeleton and all that stuff. And I didn't think the visual effect worked, but I liked it. They were like, let's do a thing. And it's when they were all dying. It was like in Buffy. Like the visual effect looks horrendous. But I like the idea of them turning to dust, and they're like, we dust them, and I don't know. It's like sometimes the visual effect doesn't have to be as good.
The smoke visual effect coming out of the mouth, for me, only really worked in one scene.
Yeah, which
and
scene?
It's because of the lighting. When they had the little boy, and there was a backlight.
The
from
boy
a car.
from Room?
Is it?
Yeah.
Jacob.
And I was like, why? I mean, yeah, I was like, why is he in this?
Oh.
He dies in like 2 minutes.
But
How'd they get him? Sorry,
the reason the effect is sold is because I think there's like a car headlight or a spotlight or something in the background, and the big guy with the cane is kind of blocking half the light. And as it rises up out of his mouth, half is dark and half is light, and that just sells it a bit more. Yeah. Whereas the other times it's kind of in like flat or daylight, and it just on the beach. It's more evenly lit, and it just doesn't quite work as well. I think the imperfections in visual effects are what sell visual effects. We keep just proving that time and time again. And
yeah, there's a bit of disconnect with the smoke. But I was like, it's magic smoke.
For sure.
So I don't...
It didn't matter too much. It looked fine. It looked... Yeah.
I like that when I'm doing things, Like a lot of it was just like, oh, I like this creativity, Like the idea of like putting monsters in boxes is kind of silly, but I just like the visual aesthetic of it. It's like, I'm gonna lock him here and like, I don't know, it's like compartmentalizing how you... I don't know, it just works for me more than it does in Sherlock.
Yeah. Oh.
Goddamn Sherlock, son of a bitch. Shut up with your mind powers. But there's a scene where it's meant to be like, hey, we followed the bad guy for half the movie as well, so we have an emotional connection. And she's like, you've conquered, you've lived in citadels and you've conquered empires and you were there when the Romans fell. I was like, what?
And no one ever shot you?
No one ever accidentally punched you with like any... yeah, because you're right, it's just this impact of... Maybe they were magic bullets. Maybe there was a cut scene. I don't know. It's
in a 3-hour director's cut. Nah, there was no.
So so my biggest issue with that was he's dying. They didn't say dying. It's like he's fading. He's shifting or whatever.
Kind of came out of nowhere.
Yeah, it came out of nowhere. Yeah. But it was like meant to imply, because this is the first time we've seen them after 8 years, that they haven't been eating properly. At least this is how I got it.
Right.
Okay, so you're not eating properly.
But you had a fridge full of smoke.
Yeah, but she's being selfish. I don't want to give it to him. Well, no. See, the only reason that the scene I don't think is the worst I actually think the ending of the scene is fantastic because they're all sitting there all morning. They're like, oh, it's so bad he's dying. And he dies. And they're like, oh no. And they just, there's a wide shot and they just go in for the smoke as soon as his body's gone. And that was really scary to me. I genuinely felt
when they started
scared
getting shot, I thought that was going to happen again, and that's how they were going to kill them.
Oh, like
one would get shot, and she would just be like, "Oh," become ravenous and like go after, and then she would get shot, and then the other ones would kind of
and it would be. That sounds amazing. Yeah, because that was probably the flattest bit for me, but that was probably at the peak of I was like, I don't think I'm going to finish this tonight. Yeah, just in terms of my brain, because I just remember like. Because there was a scene where he was sitting there and Jack Nicholson appears at they're having the bar, and I was like, I am literally like fighting my body to like stay awake. I was just so exhausted, and at that point I was so in, and I was surprised by how in I was because I was like, he looked at a room and it said red rum, but I'm not like boo. I'm just like I'm in, like because he's come back to face his demons, to face the sins from the other. I don't know. It just like and it wasn't too many because we didn't get blowjob dog. Right? Or did we? And I forgot.
Oh. Well, there is that wide shot where all the ghosts are kind of pulling her face off and getting under her skin. And like, that looked really good. It
looked so good. Yeah. I just love that. Yeah, she was just so excited to find out. She was like, what's in there? It was like fucking the first movie. all the characters from the first movie. It's just, I don't know. It's just a reunion episode, but I just fucking... Yeah.
I wonder if the dog was in. I don't remember seeing the...
No, I don't think it is. I don't know. There's actually another aspect that I didn't think really worked, but then I was like, oh no, but I'm in. And the girl needed something. So he kills Magic Hat Lady. Also, Magic Hat Lady loses her hat, and she dies with dust.
And then the
hat stays. I was like, I don't know.
Take the hat.
I kind of wanted to see the hat disappear or something.
Oh.
I don't know. I was just like...
Wait, did she ever use the hat again after...
No, it's just the first scene where... It's just the play on the idea of a magician's hat.
Yeah.
To show that she's evil, man. Also, I'm not really the biggest fan usually, but like, when she's like having she's a little rose and the kid looks up and it's just all of them are just standing like... And she's like, don't even worry about that. Don't even stress about the creepy serial killers. Don't even worry about it. And the kid's like, I should go home. And she's like, that's all good. And I'm like, that... I think without a scene like that,
that's what Mike Flanagan does very well.
Shitty, dumb horror done well.
Yeah,
he's like
simple, wide. You know where everyone is. You know what everything that's going on. He never does the close-up shaky cam. I can't fucking tell. Things like everything.
The jump scares are all very precise.
He knows what the scene is. You can tell he's thought
about
modern
Kubrick in that way. Because Kubrick's things, like all his films, are very like there's a shot, and that gets another shot. And then if it's moving, the camera's like very direct. And I don't know, The Shining for me was very much like, I'm like, kind of well, this is that. But it's very just, I don't know, when people are sitting there and having conversations or when we're following on the bike, I'm just like, this is movie making. Like, he makes a good movie. I was just really surprised by how, like, so dumb. It's just so dumb. So many ghosts just saying dumb things, razzing him up, being like, you should kill him. He's like, why? I was like, I don't know, because I'm a ghost and just do it. Aren't you not a ghost? Aren't you that guy? Like, no, I'm a ghost. I've been here forever. What are you talking about? It's like, what is happening?
The reveal at the end, when you see him in the photo at the end of The Shining.
And he's like, hey.
Like, my first thought was, he was in the bathroom talking to the other guy who killed his kids, and then I thought back to the dialogue, and it immediately didn't make sense. But I kind of thought it would have been interesting if there was like a weird time paradox thing where they both ended up in this bathroom and they both convinced each other in a weird way.
Oh.
But it's obviously not that.
I do like that. I mean, that's a lot of weird...
You would have to change a lot of the movie to
That's a fun little thing, though. Like, the idea that these guys are stuck in a loop, tripping each other up, being like, you should kill your family. Why? Because I killed mine. Why'd you kill yours? I don't know. Some guy told me to, but it was him.
Yeah.
That's like a different time travel horror movie, though.
Yeah.
That probably exists. We should Google horror movies where dads convince each other to kill their families because the other one convinced them to kill their families. Someone would be like, it's just...
Did we talk about what that photo meant at the end? I can't remember if we did.
Which photo?
The photo, yeah, of him at the end.
It means nothing. It's just a...
apparently the idea, the popular idea...
Oh, yeah. I didn't Google because I was just...
Yeah.
I feel like they just tell me often, and I'd prefer you write it.
It was that the hotel absorbed him as it has all of these other people who've done horrific things there.
Sure.
But then
it time traveled him.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it doesn't.
No, like, sure, it can absorb him, and he can be like, I love the idea of being like, I've always been here. But he hasn't always been, like, when the guy says that, I'm not like, he has always been there. I'm like, oh, God, they got him good. He thinks he's always been. He thinks he's just one of the staff. But it got him in. But it doesn't get him in and throw him 80 years back in the past. That just doesn't make any sense. That's just so, like, why can the ghost time travel? I watched a movie recently, and it had, like, it wasn't necessarily time travel, it was more like reversing the footage, but I was like, why has this movie got time travel? I feel like most movies should have time travel, because it's awesome. But not this movie. Just, I don't know. Stupider movies should have time travel, and I feel like this having that time... If the whole movie was about these ghosts time traveling all over the place, and they don't really exist, and ghosts can go anywhere, because in death, time is irrelevant. I love that. I love the idea of in death, time is irrelevant. So you can go anywhere, and heaven is just everything, and just whatever you're after, all that kind of stuff. For me, this just doesn't feel like anything. It just feels like, wouldn't it be fucking trippy if it said 1921 for some reason? I'm like, no, it just, I don't know. But this movie, Doctor Sleep also ends with but it's creepy. And I don't get it. I go, I don't get that. And the kid is like, goes to the bathroom, and the creepy lady is just in the bath, and she's just standing there.
Is that because they let them all out again, and now it's attached
to her?
I guess
that doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah,
because he doesn't.
Well, it attaches to him after he leaves the hotel.
No, but then he dies and burns the hotel down.
So all the ghosts should die.
Well, they didn't have a scene with her. They didn't attach to her. She wasn't really part of the hotel scenes.
She did go into room 237 and see that chick.
Did she?
Yeah. Okay, and then he comes in after her. Danny comes in when he's kind of possessed by the hotel.
Oh yeah, I didn't like that either.
Yeah.
Because when he rocks up and he's like, "No, I'm Jack Nicholson." It's like, no. Why? You've ended the movie with...
It's a little...
They're hungry! Or
it's
starving.
A little Force Awakens Death Star for my liking.
Yeah,
a bit too...
Remember those? Yeah. Remember this. And it's got a... Yeah, see, I like the idea that he's locked the monsters in his boxes, because that's what he would do. And then he's figured out, if I go there, if I unlock them, then I unlock them out of my mind. I don't know, it's like they're trapped, but he needs to awaken them at their spot, where they originated, because they're trapped in a place.
But then he let them all out, couldn't contain them
all. And
they
burnt it down.
And then they got him, and then chased...
But then he seems
he goes like, to hit her with the axe. Yeah. And he like swings the axe and stops.
No, she catches it and stops him. Okay. But then it like goes down.
It's no, the little girl at the end in room.
She stops him with magic for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
No, yeah, she stops him with magic, and then she touches him, and she shinings him out of it.
Okay.
I kind of like that though, because I kind of I liked it emotionally, because I wanted her to help him, and she's like, "You don't know what you're doing," and they're like, "What are you talking about?" She's like, "You don't." It's like the Luke Skywalker thing, where it's like, every single thing you said was wrong, and it's the second time they've said it to the different character, and I like that, because she's like, "You don't know where you're standing," and it's like, "What do you mean?" It's like, "No, what feet you're standing in. The first thing you did when you came in here was to the boiler room." I'm like, "What do you mean?" I remember. And then I realized what's happening, and it's like, oh, they're gonna do the ending of the first movie, the book, and and I liked that in terms of just. I remember when he arrived and went into the boiler room. I'm like, I get it, because she went into the boiler room at one point. I saw the movie just then.
It seems like people who have read both these books did take a lot more out of this movie as well, which is probably just a whole nother thing. Another way to digest it is...
Yeah, I can't even... Yeah.
Of course, like anytime you read a book, you get a lot more out of it. And this movie is not just a movie. It is it's a like kind of not reboot, but
it's a
retro sequel of the classic 1980 horror film The Shining.
One of the biggest.
It's a reconciliation of the book and movie disparity.
Yeah,
it's an adaptation of a sequel book that deviates because the other book and movie deviate so much. So it's so many things at once. It's not just a movie. So the fact that it works,
and it's not just a sequel to the movie.
It's a sequel to
the book and the movie,
and to the idea of the them being different. And actually, I think from what I've read, it works if you just read the book and go
straight to the movie.
I guess it can't, because they blow it up. I don't know.
They're like the start of The Shining, where it's like there's the island in the middle of the lake, which is and it moves around, but it starts with that kind of like it's like a lake and there's a bit of an island thing, which reminds me a lot of Harry Potter. The end of 7 has that same thing, and 3 has that area.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
But they bring it back at the end of 7, and that's where Dumbledore's buried.
Yeah,
well,
right.
at least it's very visually similar. But it was just like,
gets the wand and...
Like, what an ending. Like, the style of Shining has got some very iconic shots, very iconic music to get you there. And so, like, when he's like, we're going up there, almost there, I was like, you gotta do something. You gotta be like the first. I don't know. I felt like that there was a moment there where he's like, they're at like a tuck shop or whatever, or a petrol station or whatever, and he's like, we're almost there. And I was like, I'm ready to be here at the movie, even though the whole movie, I'm like, so I must have known it was coming. The whole movie, maybe it was the trailer or someone talking about it, because the whole movie, just like every now and then, I'd be like, why are we gonna go there? Like, this is such its own thing. I'm loving this, like.
Yeah.
He's doing his own thing, the girl's doing his own thing, there's magic witches trying to catch him, and it's all gonna... why is this gonna... And then he just shoots them all. I'm like, where is this going? And then I'm like, okay, now we're going to it. And then I was like, now I feel like you need to do something. And then it literally just goes, boom, 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 and does the shots. But I like that it was like, just the stark contrast, where it was like, when we arrive there, the snow hasn't set in yet, because they'd gone before. And even though the movie The Shining ends when it's all spooky, we never kind of leave through the spooky. So like getting there through all that spooky snow, I just really like that as a visual. But part of me felt like, because the shots were so similar, is it all visual effects? Do you think? I think it is, because the trees look too good.
Yeah, I think so. And it was night, and you can sell visual effects a bit.
The trees look really good. I was like, that's CGI good. I think, and I could be wrong.
The shot was just so similar as well.
It's the exact same. I just watched one and the other, and it's the same thing. It's so well though that I was like, it's cool. I think I can even tell that's a visual effect. Just my brain was like, but then again, when we got to the hotel, I wasn't like, whew.
There's one shot that didn't work when they're in front of the hotel. They're standing in front of the car, and it just looks like they're on a green screen. But then as soon as
I might have just looked at them then. I might have just not been paying attention. Because you know when you're just in something, you're just not...
As soon as it cuts all wide, I mean, you can tell the hotel... I could tell the hotel was CGI the whole time. I was watching on my big TV, and I was in,
Your screen is...
You can tell a little easier, yeah.
Even when I watched, like, Infinity War at my house on my really nice computer compared to my iPhone when I was overseas... My iPod when I was overseas. When I watched it on your screen, I'd never seen that he had stubble on his head. Yeah. Like, he actually... Like, he's always had the beard stubble, but I never realised that Thanos shaves.
Yeah, he's got like
he shaves his head. Yeah, like, he's not bald, he shaves. It's... I don't know, man. Ever since then, I'm like, when are we getting the Thanos scene where he... Death of Superman has a mullet? A big, thick black mullet.
I wish 2014 Thanos had a mullet.
And it's just like, why? He's like, this is before he shaved it. I don't know, we just never saw that Thanos.
And then like, because he doesn't take his helmet off till right at the end too. So he would have been like, where did that bring you? Back to me. And then Tony Stark would be like, what the fuck?
It would have been so good if, like, my favourite hair shake scene is when, at the first episode of Game of Thrones, where Prince Charming takes his head off and he shakes Jaime Lannister, when he first looks like Shrek 2's Prince Charming. Yeah. And they visually made it that. The books don't have proper visuals. They've just gone, let's just paint him exactly. And he just shakes his hair exactly the way in Shrek 2 he shakes his hair. I feel like that shake of the hair like got me in the show. I was like, it's Prince Charming. That's awesome. And then he's evil. I'm like, what? You can't do that. But that shake of the hair, if that was taken off, we should just make a visual effect of that. Yeah. But big, long, thick black hair. Like Superman mullet. Yeah. Like...
Or like dark purple hair.
Or just like really classic alien, like a big green like throw or
green
something.
Green and purple go together.
Yeah, yeah. They're nice colours. Is there a main
complementary?
Yeah. Is that what it is?
Yeah, it's like teal and orange. This movie is actually...
the Green Goblin, that's what I was thinking. There's a character that's green with a bit of purple.
Speaking of the colour grade, I got to say that this movie does lean into the teal and orange colour grade.
Is it? I didn't notice
quite
that
a bit.
Much.
There are a few shots that really kind of stood out, and
any in particular?
I'm just kind of getting over it.
Oh, just the
look.
General,
it's the look of the 2010s. I guess maybe even a little bit before. I guess it started maybe like 2007, 8ish.
Do you feel like there was a movie that started this? I'm sure if we Googled it, we could figure it out. But do you feel like there was a moment at least where you were like, "Hey, everyone's doing that now," and then tracked it back?
Transformers.
Okay.
Might have been. That might be the first like big mainstream one. That's when I really remember it, and it might have not been until the second one. But it felt like it was around that period because they only started like digitally color grading. I think the first film digitally color graded was Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
What?
Yeah, where they shot it on film and then like plugged it into a computer and then digitally graded it. And that's why that film looks so kind of unique.
Yeah.
Because
it's got a bit of a weird old school sepia kind of feel or something.
Very orange and very, Right, and then as that progressed...
Just things in that.
Because they were all very kind of simple, like they would just kind of push the color in one direction. And now what they do is highlights get graded orange and shadows get graded in blue, teal. And those are complementary colors. But what you do is every African American person becomes very orange. And that's when I really notice it with skin tones. White skin, it doesn't affect as much.
So did the cook look orange in this? 'Cause I don't
the
remember.
dad and the daughter more so because it's more daylight and that's the thing is that when they're in daylight it's more pushed, their skin tone shifts very orange, and I'm going to cut footage in right now and you'll be able to really see it more.
And I'll be like,
but the cook, whenever he shows up, it's in the shadows and he's much bluer. So they grade it like that
just
because
the aesthetic you're getting sick of.
It doesn't affect white skin tones, and most Hollywood movies are filled with white people, so it doesn't matter too much. But like a movie like this, where there are a few main characters that are African American, that you really like. I start to notice it, and I go, they've pushed the skin tones too far. They kind of fucked with it a bit too much. I'm just getting a bit over the look. I think
the generic kind of like, this is now what movies feel like.
Blade Runner 2049 actually is super guilty of it, but does it so well. They lean into it.
You can't say anything bad about that.
Roger Deakins did it in camera a lot, where he actually used white balance in the camera, so it wasn't post-graded. They were actually shooting the colors like that.
So it looked more like that feel.
It looks so good.
Man. That movie is so good. Like
you have one of the best directors of the last 10 years with the best cinematographer.
I was gonna say I'm probably not aware of who it is, but it's someone. What else has the cinematographer done then?
Roger Deakins.
Yeah. Oh, I've heard that name. Oh, he's gonna be a list of too many films.
It's probably the Coen Brothers movies are what you would probably know most of.
I don't think of them as visual feast for the eyes. I could be just saying
when you rewatch them. I think you
say a Coen Brothers movie. I can't think of any. I think of Fargo, and all I think of how good the show is compared to the movie.
No Country for Old Men.
Yeah. There's no music. I get bored.
Yeah, there is no music except on the radio. That's the only.
Okay, no, I only remember someone saying that after. I was like, I don't remember that.
There's no soundtrack. And the Coen Brothers are so well known. I didn't notice that until after too.
Yeah, I just feel like that movie is something where it's like I can't imagine why I'd want to rewatch it. It's like
Roger Deakins did 1917, which I haven't seen.
I like the visual of that a lot. I have issues, but none of them are visual. I think the visuals take over and like get rid of a lot of the issues, which is sometimes an issue. Yeah. Because you watch it, you're like, wow, and then someone's like, what about that bit? You're like, I forgot that bit. It looks so good.
he works best when he's coupled with a director with a very clear vision and a very, like Denis Villeneuve. Like, Denis Villeneuve knows the movie he's making.
He knows what he wants to.
Absolutely.
Fight. I literally don't think. I'm afraid of Dune coming out. Because I don't know, man. It's like at some point, don't you think he has to make something that just doesn't work? Or is he just going to be making movies that are perfect that no one sees forever? Is that just going to be his curse?
Yeah, I think so.
And the twist, the ironic twist will be that just no one sees it. So one day they stop paying him to do it? I don't know. Because why are they letting him make this movie?
I think he's made enough hit. I mean, Prisoners made money.
Okay, did they? That doesn't make sense to me that made money. It's such a horror... No. It's an amazing movie, but I don't know if I'd ever want to watch it again. I don't know how you'd market that. I don't know. I feel like getting confused with Enemy though.
Enemy had a very small budget, so probably made enough.
Is Enemy the one that ends with a spider? And I was like, I don't get it. And you're like, it's this obviously.
It's
and I'm like, oh my god, it's so obviously that. But I was just so
He's like, my mother's coming to town, and then it cuts to a wide shot of a giant spider looming over the city, and I'm like, it's women. Yeah. And then at the end, he lies to his wife, and then he walks in the room, and the spider goes like into the corner.
Yeah.
Which just happened in my letterbox. It was a huge huntsman, and it went into the corner, and I was like, got a flashback to that scene, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Fuck, I love these
I think
movies.
that those visual effects were just like the idea of the spider. I was just so
and all the strippers.
I think I was just so overwhelmed by it that I was just like, like that horror thing I was talking about. It was just kind of like so overwhelmed that I wasn't even like angry or annoyed that I didn't get it. I was just like, what?
Yeah.
What?
It's literally a man leading a double life.
I can't even...
And he sees...
and isn't it he sees a doppelganger of himself, but it's not actually a doppelganger?
It is him. Yeah, it's him. It's just the fact that he's cheating on his partner, and then at the end he lies again.
It sounds like a movie that's too clever for me if I'm in a certain type of mood. I'm kind of sitting there wanting to watch a Frozen 2 and escape, but I'm watching an enemy. You know what I mean?
Well, it's actually... The crazy thing about Enemy...
So
yeah, I know. We could do a whole...
Why I like Frozen.
Enemy's actually super simple, but also, like, incredibly complicated. But when you kind of just chip that veneer away, you're like, okay.
Which is the only way a movie can have shots where it suddenly cuts the city looming with a spider there. That doesn't work unless it's a very... What's that?
Yeah.
It's just a visual imagery of saying... It's like...
So
you could have the mum be like, oh, I'm a Godzilla! And then he's like, oh, I have crazy visions, you know? What a symbolic visual of, you know... But the spider makes me go like, what?
Yeah.
Prisoners is like Jake Gyllenhaal and Hugh Jackman, and one of them traps someone in like a basement for like 10 years, but then realizes it's like the wrong person or something horrific, or they just kill someone. I don't know.
Not 10 years, but
okay, yeah,
like a few days or something.
Right, okay, but it's just like, yeah, it's like someone's killed a child or something, so someone's sad about it, so they kill someone with the wrong. It's just like, I remember just awful things happening, then halfway through the movie something really awful happening, and being like, oh, Hugh Jackman, no.
And Paul Dano.
Is he the bad guy?
Remember the scene where he just like picks the dog up by the lead?
No.
And like, so
I don't like dogs, but that sounds awful.
It's honestly one of the most terrifying images. So he's like following Paul Dano, and Paul Dano is walking the dog, and he's a little bit off. Like
is Paul Dano the one they thinks that? Oh, they think he's the evil one, but he's not.
And at this point, this is early in the movie, and he's like walking this dog, and he spots Wolverine. And then he just picks the dog up by the lead, and the dog's like...
Yeah.
And like you're like, this guy's definitely...
the bad guy. Yeah.
Oh, I need to rewatch that, though. I think I've only seen that once in the cinema.
These movies are very much
it's not one I
my memories are like...
Makes me feel dirty.
I'm just like thinking about... Because I've seen it on Netflix, and I'm like, I'm never going to watch this. I just see their faces, and they're like, ooh, Bruce Lee. And I'm like... It's like when I look at Hush, and I'm just like... I kept trying to watch it, like... This is something to talk about. We're talking about Mike Flanagan. I kept wanting to look at Hush, and I was just like, the visual of it, I was just like, the visual's like, he's wearing the mask, he's behind her, and she's on the laptop, and you can see he's watching it. It's like, knowing the director, knowing what it appears to be, knowing you said I would love it, you know, I know that I will. And Dr. Sleep, I wasn't going to watch it. I only really emotionally got out of work enough to like do it because I was like, we got to do it. Just because, but I feel like that happens every week. Where I'm like, work, the end of the world. I don't care about The Shining. But then I start watching. I'm like, I have so many things to say about this stupid horror movie. So stupid. So many ghosts. Ghosts are so stupid. They just stand there like, I've got a scar on my face, but I'm still here. Can I touch you on it? It doesn't matter. I'm a ghost. But Mike Flanagan, like, I don't know. Looking at that poster though, I was like, it just looks so like. I don't know. That's grim
part of that's part of the experience of the movie is digesting what you think it is.
Yeah, which is such a what's that thing in that book? The judging a book by its cover. But that's why the reason that's such a thing is the reason books have covers is to get you in. There's like 10,000 books there. Well, how am I going to pick a book? I'm just going to pick one? No.
Yeah.
Give me something. You got to give me something.
And Hush is tight and compact.
I saw that it was 82 minutes, and honestly,
perfect length.
If I hadn't seen that because the world is ending, Disney Plus was like, Frozen 2's out now. I was like, because I downloaded Frozen 2 and it wasn't perfect quality, and I was like, half of the fun of it is watching her do the fun magic powers.
Yeah. You got to see that shit in HD.
Actually, I have something to say about Frozen 2 that I want to say to you that we should say on the thing, because it's totally about just the things we love talking about. So Rise of Skywalker had a fantastic first trailer.
Oh, with her breathe. What is that?
Yeah, and she's standing there, and she looks up, and it's like, and you see her wide, and it's like, and she's running, and then it cuts, and you're like, what the fuck is that scene? What is it? Is it training? Are they against each other? They cut out the CGI bullets, framed like a Western, just brilliant, and you get the epicness. Cut to the movie. I mean, we all know how shit it is, but the fact that that scene itself is not just...
It doesn't work.
You know, like you can't... You know how we're saying Godzilla, you can watch that scene, and it kind of sucks, the whole movie sucks, but at least now I can chuck that 2 minutes on, I can't do that with Rise of Skywalker. It's now on Disney Plus as well. Haven't gone to watch it.
Yeah.
Watched Frozen 2 again before. I'll probably watch Frozen 2 tonight if I don't go out. It's so good. Such good songs. But it has a sequence that's exactly the same, but is perfect in the movie from the trailer, which is why I'm bringing up Rise of Skywalker, because that scene is all choppy and she's like, and it's coming and it's like, why is it here? It doesn't have that pacing and that, we're here. The bit of the and you're not like...
That's why Force Awakens works and Rise of Skywalker doesn't.
It's got that breath.
Yeah, there's time to breathe in that movie.
So Frozen 2 has a fantastic first trailer, and it's Elsa, and she's just, and there's this stormy sea, and she's like, and she just runs at the sea, ices the sea, and she starts running across the sea into the ocean. And it is so uplifting and epic, and it just cuts. I mean, maybe I stopped the trailer, who knows? But I was just like, look how moody and dark and mature this second film looks. And I was in. Then all the other trailers came out, everyone went to see it in the cinema, I just didn't, because, I don't know, I got no one to go see it with. And everyone was like, it's a bit weird or whatever. It's just filled with insanity and magic. It's such a good movie. But, you get to the point about an hour or whatever in, and then suddenly this scene happens, and I'm like, oh. And I don't know, it just reminds me so much of Rise of Skywalker, where we get to that bit, and I'm like, oh, at least this bit will be good. And I'm like, no, it's choppy and fast and doesn't work. Whereas this bit, it's the same, it's slow, it's moody, it's dark, but we've gone an hour and 20 minutes or whatever, probably an hour, because it's quite, I'd imagine for it's quite short. And you just get to this bit, and it's just like, so epic and amazing, and you're like, oh, this is the bit where she fucking like, ices the water and rides through the ocean, and then she's doing it, it's epic, and then she fucking fails. She fails so hard, and it's so brutal, and then she doesn't fail, because, of course, but it was just like, I don't know, I was just like, that is what you do. You look at a movie, and you go, look at that 40 seconds. That is moody, dark, and mature, and it implies she succeeds in this scene, where she fails, then succeeds, but of course,
Yeah.
And the succession is a water horse. Like, she rides a water horse out of the ocean. It is just... Oh my god.
Does she make the water horse?
No, it's like a spirit or whatever. Oh. And then she like tames it by like lassoing it.
Sounds
and
way better than I thought.
It's such a good movie. It's got a fire gecko spirit. It's got my favorite sequence since Game of Thrones was good. There is a scene where they're rowing. It's all about like the elements. So like there's a little fire gecko spirit and there's all these spirits and they've got the four things. And the stone, like the earth is represented by stone monsters. But we've not seen them yet. And they're just rowing down a river. Very Tyrion Jorah style. Very Lord of the Rings with the big statue style at arm on hand. And the rocks are all just there. Then one of the rocks kind of goes... And it's the nose of a stone giant. And the whole rock bed down the whole river is just rocks, and then the golems, like the stone golems, and they're huge. Like when they rise up, the tree line's here, and then they rise to like there, and it's just this. I can't describe how well made it was, and how just perfect it is for anyone that likes seeing just people rowing down a river, and like all I'd want in the world is to be able to row down a river and either have like dragons and dinosaurs just be existing like animals do, or to have stone golems just be there. Like, it reminds me of why Fellowship of the Ring is probably my favorite film ever. Is like, and why The Hobbit 1 works so well is just, it has bits where they're just like, and now we're here and there's this thing. Now there's just trolls because trolls live here, and now there's goblins because we're on the, it's just,
yeah.
And had that, but it was such a pure like G kind of version of that. I was like, audibly said, fuck off. Like, I was just like, wow. And then there's like an action scene with them, and that's pretty fun. But it was just the setup. Like, there's an action scene later, it was like, oh, it's cool that they're paying that off. But I honestly would have been fine for it just to be in this world, look at these things that just exist. It was just such a fun blend of like that kind of stuff. I think King Kong, the new King Kong, does that really well. Where it's like, what if you lived in this kind of area? The scariest thing would be if like all these sticks in this area. What if some of the sticks were spider legs?
Yeah.
Enough. And it's like, yeah, go to Vietnam and just see everything. All he did was go, what would be cool if, because I've canoed through Vietnam, and everywhere I went, I was just like, I'd just be so good if King Kong was just climbing over that. And it just feels like he went to Vietnam and went, I know I'm gonna make monsters from this.
Yeah.
Frozen 2 did that too. We completely got off sidetrack, but I was just like, such a good scene. I've forgotten it. It's such a good scene. I think I like Frozen 2 more than Doctor Sleep. so much fun.
You tied it back in. Good job.
No, Dog Sleep was alright, yeah. But wait, I feel like I've said all I want to say.
Yeah, I don't...
Did you like it though? Like, in terms of like... Because I feel like we've said a lot, but it's like... I don't know, like... Do you leave it and go, fuck yeah? Or you kind of like, Because I feel like I have a lot to think and digest. And I liked it. But it's the first movie we've done so far where I don't know if I loved it. And if someone said they hated it, I'd be like, sure. I can totally see why this wouldn't work for you. But I would then say, have you rewatched The Shining recently?
Yeah.
Or do you just think you'd remember it? Because it's filled with the same lunacy. I just kind of feel like Dr. Sleep embraces it.
Yeah, doubles down, goes, all right, this is what we got, this is our mythos, let's make as much sense of it as we can and play with the rules and introduce more of what made the first one interesting, I guess. You know, this is just the kid and the cook. You know, they're the only... And they got the little thing going on, and that's kind of the most interesting stuff. And and then you're tantalized by all the ghosts and spirits in the hotel, and then I guess after you watch the movie a couple of times and think about it, and none of it really kind of adds up. You either you fall into two categories of people. There's the category of person that goes, oh yeah, it's a pretty well-made horror film and none of it really kind of makes sense. And then the other category that goes, it's about the Holocaust and the moon landing and literally everything that humanity's ever faced, and Stanley Kubrick's the genius to end all geniuses, and this is the best movie that's ever been made and no one will ever top it. And I think those people are just silly.
Insane. I was about to say, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
The movie's just...
And that's what Room 237 is. A bunch of fucking Shining nerds going...
But isn't that awesome? That like something can create such passion and insanity out of people.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm never going to watch it because I just can't be bothered with documentaries. There's too many movies. Even though all movies have been stopped forever now, I feel like I still don't have time for any documentaries.
I feel like you would get really angry if you watched it.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm only saying like the idea... I don't know, it's like... Someone was telling me about like the new Arctic Monkeys album. And they're like, it's just so weird and different and it's nothing like AM and all the good albums. I know it's one of my favorite bands as well. I don't just context. But I was like, I have not listened to the new album. That is, I mean, I don't even know if this is new. This is years ago now. But it's like, there was a weird, they did an experimental album. And I just remember being like, with no knowledge of the album or anything, I'm like, but dude, like, their first album, they're like grungy rock bands. It sounds like they're in a bar. Because that's what they were. And then when they got enough money to produce it, the music sounds well produced.
Yeah.
That's what happened with the Vines. What happens with presumably all bands. I don't listen to enough music to know. But then I was like, you're complaining about these guys experimenting. But it's like, this is just like what you do at this point. I feel like at a point I've completely lost what I was saying.
It's all art. You either preach to the choir or you reinvent yourself. And no matter what you do, no matter what you do, you're going to disappoint a group of people. You, as any artist, if you're a filmmaker, if you're a musician, if you're anything, you can
no matter what
double down on your fan base, or you can reinvent yourself. And either path will have equal and opposite reactions from different segments of people, and you'll maybe neither is right, maybe both are right. Just depends on the person. Just depends on the artist. Just depends on what the person finds the most fulfilling.
Or even just like
maybe it depends on how much money you want to make too. Because, people need to make money. And you become a sellout or...
you don't,
yeah. Who knows?
I don't... Would you... Yeah, I don't mean... If there was a third Stephen King book, I presume there's not. But I didn't know there was a Dr. Sleep book.
So now the little girl has grown up.
Would you want to see that? I mean, we could just recast and do it next year, let's say. Would you want to see it? I've just conjured this thought because I was going to say something and tie the Arctic Monkeys thing in, but I completely forgot what I was saying about that.
Oh, sorry.
No, but I was going on, and the reason was like they experimented, and I have to respect that, even though I have no idea. And I was relating that, but it doesn't matter. You'll piece it together listening, or not.
I guess, I'd be, I don't know,
I wouldn't have wanted a sequel to this, but I'm glad I saw this movie, and I would recommend this movie. It's pretty fun. Like, just as a standalone movie, I feel like it's maybe even more fun. But then again, maybe the ending would just be a bit like, what? What's red rum? What? I don't know. It would just be interesting. Whether or not, because it relies on things, but it's also
I guess the next movie would be all nostalgic for this movie. So it'd be like, oh, I found the hat.
No, I hate it. Oh, yeah, I don't know. Now I've said it. I don't... Yeah, and I think, it's funny how a lot of movies you either go like, you've got like your trilogy, you've got your ridiculous sprawling like too many movie saga, or you've kind of got like, I feel like now we've got a lot of movies that are like the old movie that's a classic, but maybe isn't even that good. Who knows? But maybe it's just because we've watched too many sci-fi movies. So Blade Runner's just not good anymore because there's so many good things that have taken the things that are good about Blade Runner, but added. You know what I mean?
And ran with them.
Yeah. And so now, and then we're just in this world where it's like now we've got these movies that are like classic, and then a sequel that's potentially 30 years too old. But I don't know. It's baffling.
So Jax, any final thoughts on The Shining or Dr. Sleep?
I think this has really changed my opinion on trailers. Just in terms of like, I really didn't want to see this because of the trailer. I had a visceral reaction in the cinema to the trailer, and I went, this fucking sucks. It looks like shit. And the director got me over.
It's kind of funny that this movie made no money.
Is it though?
Maybe
The Shining, we talk about Shining like it's this classic, it's this thing, but that's a lot of people like us that just love movies. And when you are like trying to find movies and see them all at first, people are like, Kubrick, classic horror, The Shining. I don't necessarily know that every Joe and Sally on the street would be like, a Shining sequel. They'd be like, what? What's The Shining? They'd be like, oh, that old movie, no, not for me. I don't know, I just feel like maybe it is a subsection that idolizes it the way that I kind of feel like I did until I rewatched it.
This movie only got greenlit after the success of It, which it just seems like a big misfire. You know, it's like,
just in terms of,
you don't understand what you've got here. You think all Stephen King is one thing, but this movie is just a different beast and so many different things, and people have so many different opinions about it, and then really, I mean, they were lucky that Kubrick didn't burn the hotel down at the end, and then they get to go back and do their member berries and market the whole film around that, and that's probably the only reason it made the money it did make.
Yeah, even though you stop people who might enjoy it going, which is kind of fine, because guess what? I can watch it at home.
Yeah.
Like we all have to now. I'm just subtly chucking it in. But I just feel like it was such a, I don't know, it was really eye-opening just in terms of like reviewing a classic and like watching something despite being like, I'd never watch this if we weren't going to do this. Well, I mean, I didn't decide. I was like, hey, maybe we should do this.
This feels like a movie I would throw on and maybe turn off a third of the way in.
Oh yeah. So you would have turned this off had we not had to talk about it?
No, because it's
I was having such a time.
If it wasn't Mike Flanagan.
Oh yeah, but then the film wouldn't be good.
Maybe
it looks and feels the way it does.
Exactly.
I mean, not necessarily.
It feels very him.
Yeah, it feels very him.
And he's at his. I don't know if it's at his best, because maybe kind of what I love about him is when everything's stripped down and refined, and we get to see him.
Yeah, just Gerald's Game kind of feel.
Oh yeah.
I should try and watch them.
I think Gerald's Game is my favorite of his, and it's probably the best Stephen King adaptation I can think of.
Yeah,
like he's just a big Stephen King guy, you know, and I think he gets what works.
So that's Stephen King as well. Yeah. Oh, so he just craves his, because I really felt like the reason they got this is because they were like, we're doing The Shining 2, and the last hour, which is really only the last 20 minutes or whatever, or 40 minutes, is just in a big haunted house.
Yep.
And who made the last haunted house thing? The guy who made Haunting a Hill House.
Probably that too. Yeah.
I feel like, because when I got there, I was like, yeah, I mean, like walked in, and I'm like, yeah, because like that show was like all just about how creepy this house is, and he's like, I'm gonna make this the creepiest looking house, and unapologetically creepy, like in It, but just in, I don't know. The more I think about It, because of It Chapter 2, I'm just like, it's so bad.
Yeah.
3 hours, I'll never watch It Chapter 2 ever again. And so it's ironic that got us this, and that made all the money, and this made no money. I don't know. Not that that's surprising. That I'm like, oh, a good movie didn't make money. It's like that happens all the time.
It's just Stephen King has written so much and is so many different things. Just the fact that his name is attached to something is not enough to greenlight a movie.
Honestly, the fact that his name is attached to something makes me presume it will be terrible.
Yeah.
And I've always gone,
presume that it will be maybe like a good or interesting core idea that's kind of wrapped in like baffling decisions and weird tangents, and
I've seen so many YouTube videos about like the Langoliers and just little that could be the wrong name, but just so many little snippets of movies that I've just gone, that just looks like the worst thing I've ever seen. And I've seen the entirety of a movie called, it's like Signal, or I think it's Cell, but it's something like Signal, Cell, not Cellular, because that's a great movie with Captain America in it. But have you seen that?
No.
It's so good. It's like this lady's like kidnapped by terrorists or some shit, and one of the terrorists is Bruce Willis. But she gets like a phone, like a cellular signal. It was back when phones were with a cellular now, and it's like
build a movie.
and she's like, click. Who is this? And it's just some guy, and it's like, fucking hanging down at the pier with his lads and the girls and his boys just surfing or whatever.
Oh, it's just a random number.
Yeah, and he picks it up and it's Chris Evans, and he's like, "What's going on?" She's like, "Terrorists, help me!" And he's like, "Oh no, man!" But then he dies. It's so good. I'm making it sound terrible, but it's great.
No,
it's really, really fun.
Yeah.
It's not Cellular, because that's Cellular, maybe, or that's Sal. I think it's called Sal, but it's the worst movie ever made. It's the worst film I've ever seen. It's The Last Airbender is worse, but part of me like kind of enjoys hating Last Airbender because I feel like it fuels my creativity.
There's nothing better than a terrible M. Night Shyamalan film.
Yeah, exactly. And M. Night Shyamalan's my least favorite director of all time. I think he's the worst person who's paid to do creative content in any way. Like, including that dude who filmed the dead people in that Japanese thing. M. Night Shyamalan is worse than that guy. It's not true. I'm just trying to say controversial things. I'm James Gunning tweets everywhere. Come at me. I'm just a shock jock. But though, like, this movie Sal is the reason why the idea of Stephen King's name for me, I'm like, it's not a selling point. It's the least attractive thing to a story. It has like child orgies in it because he was just like too high on coke, he doesn't remember it. He's just a lunatic that has made. I don't understand why anyone likes his books. I've not read a single one, but I've read I don't read books though, so it's not like fuck his books. I just don't read books. But this Cell movie is Samuel L. Jackson and John Cusack are in it. It's the worst movie ever. I've never had such an unpleasant time watching a movie and felt so like angry. And there was maybe one visual where I'm like, that's not the worst thing ever. But yeah, so that movie to me, like, taints his, like, legacy? I don't know. What legacy? It Chapter 2 has a scene where he's in it, and he's like, you want to buy this book? The end? And someone's like, nah, the ending sucks. And I know, and because the endings always suck in his movies, and they change the ending, and it's just such a, well, endings are pretty hard, man. It's like, no, they're not. They're only hard for bad writers. Most things have good endings. Like we were talking about Enemy just before. Spider, what a fucking ending to a movie. An ending is so simple. Even just before how she walks in. And I mean, it's Stephen King. It was like, walks in and the old lady's all like, I'm the lady from the bathtub, I'm there. It's like, that's such an ending. Like it ends. It's like, I can't remember what I'm talking about. Oh yeah, Stephen King being so self-aware of his shitty endings just feels so like, I don't know, something about that really grates me, but maybe I'm just like so soured from a 3-hour It movie that at the time I was like, I'm going to try and enjoy this, but you know, every time it seeps into my consciousness, I'm like, get a bit angry about it. Yeah, so I'm not a big fan of Stephen King. This is probably my favourite Stephen King 2 movies.
I hope it didn't seem like I'm shitting on Shining too much, because it's a very well-made movie.
No, it's awesome.
It just also has all of the caveats that we've just gone over for however
every single aspect of it is stupid, and it's just funny that we don't all look at it like a stupid movie where we're all like, there's a bit
with
where
a great director.
Yeah, or like the scene where he's like, here's Johnny, and we're all like throwing axes at the screen like it's The Room, because she's just like and she's just losing her mind. So you just add that like a notch up from 12 to 13 and she's too much, and you're like, calm down, woman. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many aspects of it. He's like, red rum, red rum, red rum, red rum. If that wasn't so well executed and performed, it would be silly. Because it would be like, red rum, red rum, red rum. And then it would cut to a mirror and it'd be like, smash cut in, murder. When I watched it a few nights ago, I was like, what the fuck? It's so stupid. LOL out loud.
Spoiler Talk is produced by KCBN Studios and Space Kraken Media.